Chapter 6:16. In everyone's eyes, Golden Crow Academy's students were seeded contestants. Although Jin Xiang was defeated, they still had 19 seeded contestants. So when Tu Dashan went on stage, almost all the students cheered excitedly. Because they had seen Tu Dashan send his opponent flying with one punch. That was definitely a visual impact. Dashan, your power is boundless. Dashan, I love you. I want to have a baby with you. Dashan, kill him. Golden Crow Academy's student. Is there a need to say? He can easily kill the guy on the other side. Tu Dashan leaped over a kilometer and landed in the middle of the arena. Tu Cheng had been waiting there for a long time. Tu Dashan looked at Tu Cheng as if he was looking at a hoodlum. He said in disdain. Your academy's student just heavily injured my classmate. Tu Cheng chuckled and scratched the back of his head. Sorry, I'll apologize to your classmate on his behalf. Tu Dashan saw this guy admitting defeat the moment they met and felt even more disdain for him. Hee, if apologizing is useful, why do you need me to come up? Tu Cheng was also puzzled and scratched the back of his head again. Yeah, why did you come up? Tu Dashan was speechless for a moment. He wondered if this guy had a screw loose in his head. Why do you think I came up? I don't know. Beat you up. Saying that, Tu Dashan leaped out. Originally, the two of them were 50 meters apart. But with Tu Dashan's leap, the distance between the two of them instantly shrunk to 1 meter. At the same time, his right hand clenched into a fist and with the momentum of charging forward, he instantly punched out. It fiercely blasted towards Tu Cheng. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. He wanted to kill this guy in one hit. They had seen Tu Dashan's punches before. Although the power was extraordinary, it was not as powerful as before. After Tu Cheng leaped out, there were 2 deep footprints left on the ground where he was previously standing. Tu Cheng had used his full strength right from the start. Boom! There was a loud sound. A shockwave spread out in all directions. Fortunately, there were energy shields around the arena. These energy shields were specially arranged by the tournament's organizing committee. They had invited over 100 rank 10 evolved dragons to inject their energy into them. No matter how strong these students were, as long as they had not reached the level of a super-evolved giant dragon, it was impossible for them to break through the light barrier. However, at that moment, under the impact of the shockwave, a crack actually appeared on the light barrier. Although this crack was extremely small, it still shocked all the teachers and students present. Cracks have appeared on the defensive barrier. Just the shockwave alone was enough to crack the defensive light barrier. How powerful was that attack? That fellow from Ocean of Clouds Academy was probably blasted into bits, right? He won't die. After all, death is allowed in the grand competition. But it will definitely be a serious injury. I understand now. Jin Jian from Ocean of Clouds Academy heavily injured Jin Xiang from Golden Crow Academy. So Tu Dashan used his full strength as soon as the battle began. He's taking revenge for Jin Xiang. At this point, everyone finally understood. No wonder Jin Xiang used his full strength from the beginning. Then, everyone looked towards the center of the arena. In the middle of the arena stood a man. He was still in a punching posture. Contrary to everyone's expectations, the person standing was not Tu Dashan. It was Tu Cheng from Ocean of Clouds Academy. On the opposite side of Tu Cheng, at the edge of the arena 5 kilometers away, there was a figure stuck on the energy light barrier. At that moment, half of the figure's body had already disappeared. The remaining half of his body was stuck in the energy barrier, blood spurting out from his mouth. His back had already smashed a hole in the energy light barrier. His entire back and buttocks were stuck on the energy light barrier, exposing the outside of the light barrier. At that moment, everyone was extremely shocked when they saw this scene. This person was none other than Tu Dashan. This is Tu Dashan from Golden Crow Academy? Oh my god, what's going on? What the hell happened? Everyone looked at the miserable Earth Mountain inconceivably, and looked at the field that seemed to have done nothing, a harmless Tuching Earth city. Then they looked at the big screen in the air. On the big screen, Tu Dashan was charging towards Tu Cheng, covering 50 meters in one step. Tu Cheng did not make any shocking movements. He simply stretched out his right fist and met Tu Dashan's fist. Boom! The two of them punched each other. Then, Tu Dashan was instantly sent flying backwards. Even if it was a slow-motion replay, But even in the slow motion, his flying speed was still extremely fast. From this, it could be seen how fast he was sent flying. Seeing the slow motion replay, everyone's eyes looked at the Tucheng in the center of the arena. Tu Dashan's strength was at the top of the 2,000 students. But this guy's punch actually reduced Tu Dashan to such a state. Just how strong was he? Even most of the instructors couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They knew that they could not take Tu Cheng's punch head-on. How did this guy train? It was said that during the previous test, he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. At that time, all the mentors and students were laughing at him and Ocean of Clouds Academy. Is there no one else in Ocean of Clouds Academy? They actually sent a rank 1 evolved dragon to participate in the tournament. Now, everyone finally knew how terrifying this rank 1 evolved dragon's strength was. In the previous match, after Jin Jian had shown such a powerful strength, many people regarded Jin Jian as their biggest opponent. Especially Golden Crow Academy, they planned to focus on studying Jin Jian. But now, they realized that Tu Cheng was even more terrifying than Jin Jian. Looks like they had to focus on studying this guy. However, this was just the beginning. Next, Shueibua, Kong Ming, and even Hickey Wanqing all displayed powerful strength. And coincidentally, their opponents were all from Golden Crow Academy. In the end, they all defeated Golden Crow Academy students in one move. Finally, in today's battle, 12 students from Ocean of Clouds Academy faced Golden Crow Academy students. All of them defeated their opponents in one move. More than half of Golden Crow Academy students were eliminated. At this point, all the students and mentors were shocked. They looked down on Ocean of Clouds Academy the most, but they did not expect it to be so terrifying. As long as they encountered a seeded contestant, they would basically crush the seeded contestant to the ground. How could they be so strong? Chapter 6:17. In this round, 12 people from the Golden Crow Academy had fallen. All of them had fallen at the hands of the students from the Cloud Sea Academy. Moreover, all of them had been killed in one move. Even the weakest rank 1 evolved dragon, Tu Cheng, had been able to kill Tu Dashan in one move. Moreover, his battle was the most shocking. Only now did the instructors and students of the academy come to a sudden realization. So the students of the Cloud Sea Academy were actually so strong. They couldn't help but look at the students of the Cloud Sea Academy with a bit of reverence. This was a world where the strong were respected. The strength displayed by the Cloud Sea Academy made all the instructors and students look at them in a new light. As for the instructors and students of the Golden Crow Academy, besides being shocked, they felt slightly embarrassed. The Dean of the Golden Crow Academy looked at the Dean of the Cloud Sea Academy from afar as if he was looking at a stranger. He had known this old fellow for so many years. This old fellow was indeed very strong, but in terms of learning, he was far inferior. So much so that the Cloud Sea Academy was basically the last few in every 100-star tournament. He didn't expect it to soar so high this time. This was definitely not the ability of that old fellow. Thinking of this, the Dean of the Golden Crow Academy turned to look at the instructors of the Cloud Sea Academy. He and the Dean of the Cloud Sea Academy were old friends, so he often went to the Cloud Sea Academy. He also knew these instructors. Based on his understanding of these instructors, none of them had such ability. At this moment, his gaze swept over to Mo Shi, who was sitting in his seat and looking around casually. Could it be him? From this fellow's temperament and other aspects, it didn't seem like it. But besides him, there was no one else. Looks like I have to get to know this fellow as soon as I go back today. At this moment, Jean Ponta felt as if he had eaten 12 piles of shit. Furthermore, they were fed by the students that he had taught in the past. Especially Tucheng Earth City. In his eyes, Tu Cheng was a complete piece of trash. In the past, he had used all kinds of methods, but he couldn't make Tu Cheng improve even a little. Moreover, Tu Cheng couldn't improve, so he gave up on himself. He became the last in the entire class and even the entire academy. In the 30 years he has been leading these students, Tucheng Earth City has never had any eye-catching performance. Unexpectedly, in just over 2 months, the strength of Tucheng Earth City has changed so dramatically. What the hell was going on? After the battles came to an end, all those deans and instructors who were ridiculing and disdainful towards Ocean of Clouds Academy had come over to greet the deans and instructors of the academy. Obviously, he was trying to make friends. The dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy naturally felt amused as he gazed at their ugly faces. Weren't they all quite capable in the past? Why are they all trying to curry favor with me now? However, he didn't dislike it. This was because it was the natural behavior of dragons to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Moreover, since these fellows had come to curry favor with him, it would make things easier for him in the future. For example, if the equipment in Ocean of Clouds Academy wasn't complete, then he could allow his students to visit the other academies and even borrow their equipment. However, Mo sure didn't care who they were and rejected them all. He completely ignored them. After they returned to the academy that night, the instructors of the various academies started to study Ocean of Clouds Academy. He studied the instructors and students of Ocean of Clouds Academy. It was even to the extent that some academies even exchanged their experiences. In the end, all of them came to a consensus that the reason Ocean of Clouds Academy had suddenly become so strong was entirely because of Instructor Mo. However, they knew very little about Instructor Mo's background and identity. It was even to the extent that they utilized a considerable amount of their connections to investigate Mo Sher's identity. However, they were unable to find anything in the end. According to Mo Sher's identity, they were only able to find information about Mo Sher after he arrived at Ocean of Clouds Academy. They were unable to find out what he did and where he'd been before he arrived at Ocean of Clouds Academy. But the more it was like this, the more mysterious Mo Sher was to them. Moreover, the more mysterious a person was, the stronger that person was. If there's an expert in Ocean of Clouds Academy, then it can only be Instructor Mo. Did all of you notice the dean's attitude towards him today? It didn't seem like the dean was speaking to an instructor at all, and it seemed like the dean was speaking to a senior instead. Yes, I noticed as well. Instructor Mo's identity is so mysterious, so he's definitely a great figure. So, we have to be careful before him in the future. Don't offend him before we figure out his identity. You make it sound like we can offend him once we figure out his identity. As soon as these words were spoken, all the other instructors could only shake their heads and laugh bitterly. To be honest, even if they figured out Instructor Mo's identity, it was very likely that his background would be able to shock them to death. So, it seemed like it was best not to figure it out. During the next 3 days, the final rounds of the competition were carried out. The remaining 8 students from Golden Crow Academy were practically instantly annihilated when facing the other academies. However, they were instantly annihilated when facing Ocean of Clouds Academy. In the end, the remaining 8 students from Golden Crow Academy were eliminated as well. Even the strongest amongst them, Jin Ming, was actually instantly annihilated when facing Mu Wanqing, who seemed to be the weakest amongst the students from Ocean of Clouds Academy. This allowed everyone present here to experience how terrifying the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy were. All of them couldn't help but look at Mo Sher once more. Exactly how formidable is this Instructor Mo to be able to teach such a group of students? In the end, when the competition came to an end, 12 of the top 20 were students from Ocean of Clouds Academy. As for why the remaining 8 hadn't been able to enter the top 20, it was because the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy had encountered each other before they even entered the top 20. For example, Mu Wanqing was no match for Jin Jian during the competition to determine the top 16, so she could only be eliminated. But even then, not a single student dared to look down on Mu Wanqing. All of them unanimously felt that if it wasn't an elimination system but a point system, then it wouldn't be a problem for all the students from Ocean of Clouds Academy to occupy the top 20. Of course, there were some students from Ocean of Clouds Academy who felt rather disappointed. It was Lei Ren. He'd finally been able to follow them here, yet he could only be a spectator in the end. Mo Sher couldn't help but roar with laughter when he saw Lei Ren's aggrieved expression. He consoled. "Don't worry, you'll have a chance to participate in the next competition once you graduate." Lei Ren puckered his lips. "What if you graduate and lead a new batch of students? At that time, it'll be another 20 students from your class." Mo Sher waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about that. It's troublesome enough for me to lead these 20+ students. I won't lead any more after I'm done with them." Mo Sher had already made up his mind. After he returned to Ocean of Clouds Academy, he would run his own tutoring class properly. He would spread the name of his tutoring class. At that time, it would be held every 10 days. It would save him a lot of trouble, and he would be able to collect more money. Moreover, he would be able to make the system acknowledge these students as his students. Three birds with one stone. Chapter 6:18. The Cloud Ocean Academy used their overwhelming advantage to become the champion of the 100-star competition. The 20 students of the Cloud Ocean Academy were deeply engraved in the minds of the over 2,000 teachers and students. Their performance, their domineering temperament, and their ruthlessness caused all the teachers and students to be deeply impressed. As for their teacher, Mo Shi, he was deeply engraved in everyone's mind. What kind of teacher was able to teach such students? How terrifying was the teacher's strength to be able to teach such students? On the last day of the competition, all the teachers and students gathered for a meal. A large gathering of over 2,000 people could be said to be a magnificent sight. During the meal, many teachers came to toast the dean of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Of course, there were also many teachers who came to toast Mo Shi. I only toasted these people, but I didn't refuse any of them. These people all praised him for his great alcohol tolerance, but they were all silently wondering where this fellow came from and how strong he was. These people thought that they had become friends with Mo Shi after drinking with him, but in reality, Mo Shi was just drinking. As for making friends with them, they could go fuck themselves. He didn't want to make friends with so many people now. He only wanted to nurture his students. When the time came, his students would spread all over the world. Would he still need to care about the faces of others? No one from the other academies left first. They all sent the teachers and students of the Cloud Ocean Academy to their flying ships and watched them leave before leaving silently. After the conference ended, a name began to spread on more than 100 nearby planets. This name naturally belonged to Mo Shi, Teacher Mo. At the beginning, the students of the various academies were talking about how amazing this Teacher Mo was, and how valiant the students he taught were. Because these academies were the strongest academies on each planet, the legends of these students quickly spread across the entire planet. Thus, Mo Shi's name spread throughout the nearby 100-plus planets in an extremely short period of time. Of course, this was all in the future. When the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy returned to the Cloud Ocean, they received a warm welcome from the entire planet. After all, this was the greatest honor that the Cloud Ocean Academy had received in the past 100 years. The teachers and students of the Cloud Ocean Academy had brought honor to the entire planet. The entire Cloud Sea Star held a grand welcoming banquet for the Academy. At the welcoming banquet, Mo Shi's status was also very high. For a time, Mo Shi was in the limelight on Cloud Sea Planet. During the banquet, Mo Shi made an important announcement. Instructors, students and officials, taking advantage of this banquet, I would like to announce an important decision. Mo Shi raised his glass and said. Hearing Mo Shi's words, all the instructors, students, and officials turned to look at him. Well, in order to cultivate more talents for Yun Hai, I've decided to open a summer cram school. The cram school will recruit students from all over Yun Hai. Hearing Mo Shi's words, the students present immediately became excited. After all, only students from Cloud Sea Academy had attended Mo Shi's cram school. Today, those who had arrived at the venue were the genius students of the various academies. When they heard that Mo Shi had led so many students to achieve such good results, they wanted to acknowledge Mo Shi as their teacher. However, the academy had its own rules, and it wasn't something you could do as you pleased. They were worried about how to get Mo Shi's guidance. They didn't expect Mo Shi to announce that he was opening a cram school. How could they not be overjoyed? The officials and instructors present were also surprised. Although there hadn't been a cram school in their world before, everyone knew that Mo Shi had opened one before. In their opinion, Mo Shi was a very quiet person who stood aloof from worldly affairs. There were many things that Mo Shi found troublesome. Why would he announce that he was recruiting students from all over Yun Hai? Mo Shi continued, the cram school I'm opening doesn't have any requirements for talent. No matter how high or low your talent is, even if you're trash, as long as you attend my cram school, I guarantee that you'll be able to advance by one level within 10 days. If your level is low, you can even advance by 2 or 3 levels. As soon as Mo Shi said this, it immediately caused a wave of exclamations. Mo Shi's cram school didn't have any requirements for talent. This made everyone exclaim in disbelief. After all, almost every academy had a requirement for talent when they recruited students. Actually, this was understandable. If you didn't have any talent, it would be a waste to spend so much effort, manpower and money on you. Now, Mo Shi was recruiting students without any requirements for talent. Moreover, he guaranteed that every student would advance by at least one level within 10 days. How could this not surprise everyone? If an ordinary person said this, they would probably be beaten half to death on the spot. However, it was Instructor Mo from Yunhai Academy who said this. After all, Instructor Mo had just led so many students and won the championship in the 100-star tournament in an absolutely crushing manner. Moreover, Instructor Mo's ability to advance by one level within 10 days was also confirmed by the Yunhai Academy. Even if they didn't believe in others, how could they not believe in Yunhai Academy? In the end, Mo Shi said, "I only have one principle when I recruit students." Everyone hurriedly listened attentively. As long as you have money, as long as you have 1,000 dragon coins, I guarantee that every student will advance by one level within 10 days. When everyone heard this, they were all extremely excited. Especially the students. 1,000 dragon coins was indeed very expensive for ordinary people. However, these 1,000 dragon coins were nothing compared to the cost of leveling up once. After all, many people needed over 100 years to advance by one level. Could it be that you couldn't even earn 1,000 dragon coins in 100 years? Thus, many students immediately came to Mo Shi to ask about all kinds of problems. The scene instantly became chaotic. The officials felt quite embarrassed. According to the customs of Yunhai Planet, no one would set up a cram school like this. In their understanding, this was something they were accustomed to. Such a cram school didn't have any qualifications, and the quality of the teaching couldn't be guaranteed. Thus, such a cram school couldn't make any money at all. If a teacher really set up a cram school like this, they would be looked down upon by others. These officials all wanted to dissuade Mo Shi, but Mo Shi didn't break any laws. In fact, Yunhai Planet didn't have such laws at all. Thus, these officials could only feel embarrassed. The dean of Yunhai Academy and a few people who wanted to curry favor with Mo Shi all wanted to remind Mo Shi that it wasn't good to leave the officials to the side like this. If you don't go through the officials and apply for any documents and things like that, do you still have any respect for the officials? However, Mo Shi didn't care about all this nonsense. Even if I do it, what can you do to me? With his results and his current limelight, no one would dare to do anything to him. Chapter 6:19. On the second day after the banquet, Mo Shi's summer cram school started. When he signed up in the morning, it was even more crowded than the last cram school. He asked the students in his class to compile a list of names. In the end, more than 3,000 people signed up in the morning. Of these 3,000 people, 100 people formed a batch. There were 30 batches in total. In other words, the number of people who signed up in one day was enough to fill a whole year. No cram school on earth could be so popular. After the day of registration, Mo Shi stopped signing up. This made the students who didn't sign up regret it. That afternoon, 5 students that Mo Shi helped broke through. One of the students, who was only an ordinary giant dragon, advanced 3 ranks in 5 minutes. This shocked all the students. They were all enthusiastic about learning. Of course, with so many students, Mo Shi didn't have time to teach them. Instead, he assigned these people to his 21 students. Each of them was in charge of 5 people. Those theoretical knowledge and so on were all taught by these students. Only at the last stage of advancement would Mo Shi personally guide them. 10 days later, the first 100 people had graduated. Every one of them had advanced by at least 1 rank. As the saying goes, reputation is the best advertisement. After these people graduated and each of them advanced by a level, the news spread. They told their friends and relatives about their advancement. Some people even wrote all kinds of articles and videos on the internet to promote Mo Shi's cram school. These kinds of online articles and videos quickly spread. Of course, many people thought that these were fake news. Some people even directly called for the government to ban this person and remove these fake news. But soon, the government came out to speak. Recently, someone spread rumors that Mentor Mo Shi's cram school is fake news. In this regard, we solemnly declare that Mentor Mo's cram school is not fake news. His cram school was spread by word of mouth among the students. Moreover, it is true that you can advance in 10 days. No matter how old you are or how high your aptitude is, you will definitely advance in 10 days. At the same time, We will maintain the right to pursue those who maliciously slander mentor Mo Shi. Once this statement was released, it was equivalent to official confirmation. Those who had said that Mo Shi's cram school was false were not only slapped in the face but also disappeared without a trace. As a result, Mo Shi's summer cram school became even more popular. There were hundreds of thousands of people asking about it on the internet and calling to inquire about it. Mo Shi had no choice but to turn off the phone. For the rest of the summer vacation, Mo Shi's cram school continued. Mo Shi had recruited more than 600 students in just 60 days of the summer vacation. These students had basically all learned his various 9 dragon transformations. Of course, Mo Shi did not teach them all the 9 dragon transformations. After all, their aptitudes varied. It was impossible for everyone to learn everything in 10 days. Most people only learned the first transformation. Only an extremely small number of people with aptitude and intelligence managed to learn the second transformation. Mo Shi also planned to keep those heavenly geniuses by his side and teach them the various third dragon transformation. These few students who were able to stay by Mo Shi's side all cried out in relief. But the 21 students of the academy were even luckier. They were very glad that Mo Shi could come to the academy. Otherwise, with their aptitudes, it would be impossible for them to stay by Mo Shi's side. Moreover, through these 2 months of teaching, they could also see that Mo Shi was serious about teaching them at that time. Not only did he teach them the various 9 dragon transformations and let them level up, but he also brought them to gain experience and even took them to suppress bandits. This allowed their progress to far surpass these ordinary students. But now, these students were basically just leveling up and teaching them the various 9 dragon transformations. He did not care about anything else. As a result, these students' greatest gain was only leveling up. As for their combat strength, compared to the 21 of them, the difference was like heaven and earth. Of course, they only knew this in their hearts and would not say it out loud. In their opinion, it was already very good for these students to be able to level up. You've only paid 1,000 dragon coins, allowing you to advance by 1 stage and learn such a profound cultivation technique and skill. What else do you want? There were still many other students who wanted to squeeze their heads in, but Mo Shi didn't want them. After school started, Mo Shi only went to the academy in the morning and continued with his tutoring classes in the afternoon. He had already taught these students everything he could, so there was no point in staying in the academy. And these students came to help Mo Shi every afternoon. To them, being able to stay by Mo Shi's side was already a great fortune. Strictly speaking, Mo Shi's current actions were against the rules, but the academy turned a blind eye to Mo Shi's actions. Such an outstanding teacher naturally had to have some special privileges. If you don't give him some privileges, why should he stay in this lousy academy? The Cloud Sea Academy was only one of the most remote academies in the entire Starfield. With such great ability, he could go to the best academy in the entire Starfield, get the best treatment, and make friends with the best talents. Time gradually flew, and in the blink of an eye, a year had already passed. In addition to the original 21 people, Mo Shi took in another 79 students, making a total of 100 people. He kept these 100 people by his side and trained them. Gradually, the strength of these students reached the level of the original 21 people. With such a force, no matter which academy they went to, they would definitely be the target that those academies would fight over. Now, they were all gathered under Mo Shi's command. Originally, Mo Shi thought that the days would pass by in such an ordinary way. Once the number of people under his command reached a certain level, he would go to other planets. But on this day, there was chaos on Cloud Sea Planet. The Cloud Sea Planet Star-Lord died suddenly. It was important to note that the Cloud Sea Planet Star-Lord was a 4th-grade super-evolved dragon. Under normal circumstances, he should still have tens of thousands of years of life left. Why did he suddenly die? But none of this was important. Next was to choose the Star-Lord successor. After the death of every Star-Lord in the entire Starfield, the Starfield would choose their own successor. Of course, the successor could also be chosen according to the previous Star-Lord's last words. But this generation's Star-Lord had trained 2 people before he died. Kong Hai and Shi Mingyue. Kong Hai was a space attribute super-evolved dragon. He had reached the 3rd level. Shi Mingyue was an extremely rare time attribute super-evolved dragon. She had also reached the 3rd level. The 2 of them each led a group of forces. They attacked each other, both wanting to be the new Star-Lord. Chapter 620. On this day, after Mo Shi finished teaching a few students in the lakeside villa, he brewed a pot of tea and sat by the lake with Lei Ren to drink. Gradually, the moon rose above the willow branches, and Lei Ren went back to rest. After all, he still had classes tomorrow. The night breeze was slightly cold, and the fragrance of flowers sent them off. Mo Shi couldn't help but want to call Happy and the others out to enjoy the beautiful night together. However, Happy and the others weren't dragons. If they were discovered, there might be a lot of trouble. More than 2 hours passed like this. Mo Shi was about to go back to sleep. Mo Shi was about to go back to sleep. A flying car stopped in the distance. Then, 2 people got out of the car. The clothes of these 2 people looked like ordinary civilians. However, the temperament of the 2 of them was definitely not ordinary civilians. Mo Shi glanced at them. Both of them were rank 10 evolved dragons. One had to know that although rank 10 evolved dragons weren't the top existences in this world, they weren't common either. Now that these 2 were rank 10 evolved dragons, it could be seen that their identities weren't simple. The 2 of them came to Mo Shi and cupped their fists to Mo Shi. "Instructor Mo, I've heard a lot about you." He looked at the 2 of them up and down and saw that although their clothes were simple, they were very clean, and their hair was meticulously combed. "You are?" Mo Shi asked. "We are subordinates of Master Kong Hai. We were ordered by Master Kong to come and pay a visit to Instructor Mo Shi." After hearing these 2 people's words, knew why they came. He shook his head slightly. "I've always been unwilling to deal with the officials. Please go back." The 2 of them looked at each other and paused for a moment. After the sudden death of the previous Star Lord, the 2 people with the greatest power on the planet were Kong Hai and Shi Mingyue. Kong Hai was once a soldier who fought in all directions and participated in the war between planets. He was iron-blooded and courageous. He won the respect of many soldiers in the barracks. After the onlookers, he won the respect of many civilians and political figures. On this planet, there were countless people who wanted to be recognized by Kong Hai and become his subordinates. But now, this young instructor rejected Master Kong. This was something they didn't expect. Of course, they wouldn't give up so easily. One of them said, "Don't say that Master Kong Hai values you very much. If you can join him, you will receive much higher status and respect than you have now. You don't have to trouble teaching so many students. We know that you must be short of money to teach so many students. If you join Lord Kong Hai's side, you will have plenty of money and beauties." Hearing this, Mo Shi burst into laughter. As he laughed, he shook his head. No wonder even with Lord Kong Hai's strength and status, he still hasn't defeated Shi Mingyue. It's because he has subordinates like you. Is this how you rope people in? Women? Money? To be able to catch the eye of Lord Kong Hai and reach such a position, who would care about worldly things like money and women? The 2 of them looked at each other again, and a look of understanding flashed across their eyes. Finally, the 2 of them saluted Mo Shi at the same time. "Instructor Mo, please advise us." Mo Shi shook his head. "If you want to rope someone in, you have to at least cater to their preferences. Before you go, don't you have to study this person's preferences and personality?" The 2 of them replied, "We have studied Instructor Mo. We think that Instructor Mo values money." Ha 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 ha. Mo Shi laughed haughtily again. These 2 people were really interesting. Were all Kong Hai's subordinates like this? That was way too King honest. But when Mo Shi plundered their memories, he found that things weren't that simple. Most generals liked to be straightforward and weren't that smart. And those civil officials played with people's hearts and politics. It was basically impossible for a general to play with civil officials. As a military general, Kong Hai was able to rise up in his official career. It was obvious that his thoughts weren't that simple. He was good at using people and naturally good at figuring out people's hearts. He knew that if he wanted to subdue someone like Mo Shi, normal methods wouldn't work. He could only use some special methods, such as letting these 2 people show their honesty. Perhaps this would have some effect. In fact, if Mo Shi hadn't plundered their memories, it might have worked. Mo Shi was indeed moved by the sincerity of these 2 people. He wanted to follow these 2 to see what kind of talents Kong Hai's subordinates were. But now, from the memories of these 2 people, he knew that these were just tricks that Kong Hai wanted to show him. It was a trick to attract him. Mo Shi dispelled this idea. At the same time, He was really impressed by this empty brain. But Mo sure wouldn't join Kong Hai because of this. He was free and happy as an instructor. Why should he be ordered by others? He waved his hand at the two of them. You don't have to do this. I've always been quiet and indifferent. I'm used to being free. If I go, I'll definitely cause trouble. Not only won't I be able to help Master Kong Hai, but I might also affect Master Kong Hai's important matters. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other again and saw a flash of surprise in each other's eyes. Why did it seem like their thoughts were seen through by this person in front of them? This guy was too scary. They had only met for less than 5 minutes and had only exchanged a few words. Their thoughts were already seen through by this guy. No wonder Master Kong Hai valued this person so much. But now that they had said this, their purpose had been exposed. They could only salute Mo sure with cupped fists. Instructor Mo, then I'm sorry to disturb you. With that, the two of them quietly said goodbye. The surroundings returned to peace. On the night of the second day, the peace of the lakeside villa was broken again. When Mo sure was drinking tea by the lakeside, 2 more people came. These 2 people also drove flying cars. However, their flying cars didn't stop far away. Instead, they came directly in front of Mo sure. The two of them got off the car. Their clothes were really normal, but their aura wasn't normal either. They cupped their fists towards Mo sure and said, Instructor Mo, our master invites you. I chuckled and asked, Who is your master? One of them replied, Master Shi Mingyue. I replied calmly and then ignored the two of them. It is your honor to be able to work for Master Shi. There was a domineering aura in his words. Instructor Mo, come with us if you know what's good for you. Even if you don't work for Master Shi, at least go and take a look. We have completed our mission. Don't make it hard for us. I laughed coldly. Why should I care if it's easy or not? Chapter 621. Don't make it difficult for us. The 2 men repeated their words with a hint of viciousness in their words. So what if I make it difficult for you? Mo sure smiled indifferently and asked with a hint of ridicule. In that case, don't blame us. As the 2 spoke, energy surged from their bodies. One of them was of the time attribute, while the other was of the space attribute. Their energy intertwined, and the space around them seemed to be constantly surging like waves. Time and space intertwine, crush all things. The 2 let out a muffled roar from their throats at the same time. The black and chaotic energy on their bodies quickly swept toward Mo sure. The black and chaotic energy kept intertwining, entangling, and surging around Mo sure. In just a few seconds, Mo sure was completely devoured. It seemed to have formed a small black hole. The 2 looked at each other, and a smug smile appeared on their faces. Who said that evolved dragons couldn't fight against super-evolved dragons? Wasn't this so-called mentor Mo a super-evolved dragon? The 2 of them had defeated this guy in just a few seconds. After trapping this guy in the black hole, they just needed to bring him back. However, before the smiles on their faces disappeared, the black hole in front of them gradually disappeared. A figure walked out of the black hole, with an ordinary face and body. The person in black was none other than Mo sure. The smiles on the 2's faces froze, and endless fear appeared in their eyes. How is this possible? How did he break free from our space-time black hole? Because they were too frightened, the 2 of them couldn't speak clearly. They really couldn't understand. This guy was at most a rank 2 super-evolved dragon, and their space-time black hole had once devoured a rank 3 super-evolved dragon. Why didn't it work in front of this guy this time? Mo sure plundered their memories and knew what they were thinking. He chuckled. Because I'm not just rank 3. As he spoke, countless blood-red tentacles stretched out from under his feet. They crawled along the ground to the feet of the 2, like countless red snakes crawling up their bodies, and finally completely devoured them. Meanwhile, their so-called time skills and space skills were completely ineffective against Mo sure. It was only now that the 2 of them realized that this person before them wasn't just a 3rd grade, but a 4th grade. He might even be a 5th grade. Thinking of this, their eyes were filled with despair. Their space-time combination could restrain any attribute, which allowed them to challenge Tier 2 or even Tier 3 super-evolved colossal dragons. However, no matter how strong their attributes were, the level gap was too large. They could do nothing about it. It was obvious that this person's level was much higher than theirs. Facing such a person, if they offended him, the only result would be death. The next moment, the two of them were completely swallowed by the blood-red tentacles. Another notification popped up in Mo Shi's mind. His dragon slaying points had increased by 2. After killing these 2 people, his heart trembled slightly. In his mind he said, "System, check in for a special event." The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in event, killed space-time attribute dragon. Sign in reward, dragon bloodline second mutation. Second mutation of the dragon vein? Mo Shi was very surprised. Today's sign-in reward was very strange. Just as he was surprised, his body began to change. He felt 2 streams of energy rushing from his left and right arms to his hands. Finally, they gathered in his palms. 2 vortexes were formed. The energy kept spinning in these 2 vortexes and was swallowed by them. At the same time, the color of these 2 vortexes kept changing. Finally, the vortex on his left hand turned into a chaotic color, and the vortex on his right hand turned black. This is... Mo Shi looked at his hands. The chaotic color on his left hand represented the time attribute. The black color on his right hand represented the space attribute. Time on my left hand, space on my right. Combine left and right, reverse time and space. Mo Shi said these 2 sentences for no reason. At this moment, energy surged in his hands. Mo Shi couldn't help but squat down. He stretched out his left index finger. He pointed at a blade of grass by the lake. The chaotic energy gushed out from his index finger and was absorbed by the blade of grass. In the next moment, the blade of grass grew rapidly, reaching a height of more than a foot. Then, it began to turn yellow, and finally completely withered, like a piece of hay in winter. It was September, and the summer vacation hadn't completely ended yet. However, this blade of grass seemed to have experienced autumn and winter in this short moment. The time attribute is indeed amazing. Energy surged in Mo Shi's right hand again. Facing the blade of grass, he gently separated his right index and middle fingers. A stream of black energy entered the blade of grass. The blade of grass was quickly torn into countless small powder. He didn't use dragon consciousness, nor did he use any other energy attack. Instead, he used a space attribute skill to refine the space where the blade of grass was into countless small fragments. Then, he tore the blade of grass into pieces. Just imagine, if he used such a skill on a giant dragon, the giant dragon wouldn't be able to resist at all. No wonder the time attribute and space attribute were the 2 strongest attributes in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. And now, Mo Shi had time in his left hand and space in his right. Such a person had probably never appeared in the entire 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. Next, he tried to combine the energy in his left hand and right hand to perform a new skill. However, he had just obtained the energy of these 2 attributes after all. He wasn't familiar with them yet, so he failed after more than 10 attempts. Mo Shi didn't force it. He just let nature take its course. Right now, he was a 6th grade super-evolved giant dragon and had mastered many 9 dragon transformations. Now that he had the time and space attributes, he had become the ceiling of the entire Cloud Sea planet. To put it bluntly, as long as he wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted on Cloud Sea planet. No one or any force could stop him. However, he had always kept a low profile. He was invincible in Cloud Sea planet, but who knew if there were even more powerful existences on other planets? For example, the ancient dragons. Therefore, before he became an ancient dragon, he felt that he had to keep a low profile. Once he became an ancient dragon, he would go on a killing spree and quickly advance. In his opinion, once he became an ancient dragon, it would be even harder to kill him. Then, he would reveal his true identity. Even if there were other more powerful ancient dragons, they probably wouldn't be able to do anything to him. 2 hours later, in Cloud Sea Starry Cloud City, Kong Hai's mansion. 2 subordinates reported to Kong Hai. Lord Kong Hai. He doesn't want to join us. Kong Hai sighed. If he doesn't want to, then so be it. My lord, should we kill him? Forget it. As long as he doesn't make an enemy out of us. Moreover, who knows what faction is behind him? Chapter 622. Cloud Sea City, Cloud Sea City, Shi family mansion. In Shi Mingyue's study. Shi Mingyue frowned slightly and said, "Men." Soon, the door opened and a person who looked like a guard walked in. Shi Mingyue asked, "The two people who went to Mo Shi's place haven't returned yet?" The guard replied, "Not yet, my lord." "Find out why they haven't returned yet." There was a trace of impatience in Shi Mingyue's tone. The guard knew that Shi Mingyue was a little angry and quickly cupped his fists. "Yes, my lord." Then, he took out a small device on his left arm and turned it on. A blue beam of light shot out from the top of the device. In the beam of light was the projection of the two people. The two people left the Shi family mansion and took a flying car all the way to the lakeside villa. Soon, they got off the car at the lakeside villa. They came in front of Mo Shi. After saying a few words, he moved and created a black hole. The black hole began to devour Mo Shi, but a moment later, Mo Shi walked out. Then he killed the two people. Seeing this, the guard couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Because of the two people sent by Shi Mingyue, one was of the time attribute and the other was of the space attribute. The two of them worked together to reverse time and space. In theory, the two of them could kill a Grade 3 super-evolved giant dragon instantly. Even if they encountered a Grade 4 super-evolved giant dragon, they could fight it. But now, they were easily killed by Mo Shi. This was enough to show that Mo Shi's strength was very likely that of a Grade 4 super-evolved giant dragon, or even a Grade 5. If he really reached Grade 5, he would be the strongest existence in the entire Cloud Sea planet. Previously, the Star Master was the strongest on Cloud Sea planet, a Grade 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Now that the Star Master was dead, the strongest person was the man in front of him. Shi Mingyue's brows furrowed when she saw this. She thought that this guy was at most a Grade 3 super-evolved giant dragon, and that she could easily defeat him. She didn't expect this guy to be so strong. But soon, a fierce look flashed across her face. "Since I can't use him, then I'll destroy him." No one on Cloud Sea planet was his match. But what about outside of Cloud Sea planet? Thinking of this, Shi Mingyue dialed an interstellar number. The person on the phone was not a human or a dragon, but a blurry shadow. "Senior brother, I have something I need your help with." The blurry shadow wriggled and made a strange rustling sound, similar to the rustling of leaves in the wind. "If you want my help, the price is not low." "I know. Come first." The blurry shadow paused for a moment before saying, "Blood brothers settle accounts clearly. Let's settle the price first, then it'll be easier to handle the rest." Shi Mingyue cursed in her heart. He was really King obsessed with money. But on the surface, he remained calm and collected. "I need you to help me kill someone. How about a mid-sized spaceship?" The blurry shadow chuckled. "That depends on who you kill and what his level is. It might be 3rd grade. At best, it could be 4th grade." Then, he heard the rustling sound again. "You have to pay more. Add your sister. You're really King obsessed with money." However, he remained calm on the surface and only nodded. "How much do you want?" "Another 50 million. 30 million. 50 million. 35 million. 50 million. 40 million. Deal." The blurry shadow laughed again, laughing so hard that its body seemed to tremble. "This reminds me of the business we did when we were young. I really miss that time." Shi Mingyue also smiled and shouted in a Chunibyu manner, "Brothers of one mind." The blurry shadow continued to laugh. "Sharp enough to cut through gold." The god at the side kept cursing in his heart. "Oh, this is called brothers of one mind? But it's true that sharp enough to cut through gold. Both of them are haggling for their own benefits." Of course, this thought was only in his heart. He did not dare to show any disrespect on the surface. Shi Mingyue hung up the phone. She cursed fiercely, "Just like when we were young, there's no King brotherhood, only benefits." Ah! As she spoke, she took a sip. The guard at the side still did not dare to say anything. 2 days later, in the study of Shi Mingyue's residence, there was only Shi Mingyue and her senior brother. It was a humanoid creature wearing a cloak. They could not see what was inside the cloak. They could only see that it was pitch black inside the cloak. Shi Mingyue showed the previous video to the humanoid creature. "How is it? Are you confident?" The humanoid creature laughed a few times. Of course, I'm confident. But you have to pay more. Shi Mingyue frowned and her face darkened. Senior brother, you can't be householder Qian, right? The humanoid creature laughed and said, didn't I say that even brothers should settle their accounts clearly? But didn't you already pay more the day before yesterday? That's different. You didn't say that this person was so strong the day before yesterday. Even the space-time duo was easily killed by him. Naturally, you have to pay more to deal with such a person. Okay, I'll pay more. Then how much do you want? Shi Mingyue was still a little impatient. Then let's add another 20 million. Shi Mingyue frowned. 20 million. Why don't you just rob? How can robbing be as fast as making money? Shi Mingyue shook her head. 10 million. The blurry shadow was still laughing. 20 million. 12 million. 20 million. 14 million. 20 million. 15 million. Deal. Shi Mingyue shook her head helplessly. You win every time. The blurry shadow was still laughing. You know that I win, but you still have to bargain. Can't you just say 15 million? I hope you'll find your conscience. Who knew that you don't have a conscience at all? You know that I don't have a conscience, but you still have to bargain. Are you brainless? Let's not talk about this. When do you plan to do it? The blurry shadow in the cloak seemed to sway a few times and said, that depends on the timing, the location, and the people. Okay, it's up to you. You just have to kill that guy within 3 days. If you're willing to pay more, I can kill him within a day. Senior brother, don't go too far. I've always gone too far. No, I can't afford it. Whoosh, you're still so stingy. You're not stingy? You're not stingy. You let me increase it again and again. Whoosh, I'm your senior brother. This is your filial piety to me. On the evening of the 3rd day, after Mo Shi helped a few students break through, he came to the lakeside again. He was still lying on the recliner, enjoying the evening breeze while drinking tea. It was indescribably comfortable. And at this moment, a black shadow quickly floated over from the distant sky. Chapter 623. Mo Shi was by the lake, enjoying the evening breeze and drinking tea. A black shadow suddenly flew over from afar. Doomsday sensed it with his draconic will and found that the black shadow was not solid. Instead, it was more like a cloud of mist. Is that a magical dragon? Mo Shi was slightly surprised. Magical dragons had once appeared in the myriad dragons starfield. Those dragons originally had normal bodies, but after being invaded by some kind of magic power, their bodies were reduced to nothingness, leaving only a cloud of black mist around their consciousness. They were called magical dragons. In history, there was once a powerful demonized giant dragon, whose strength had reached the 10th level of superevolution. Its body was illusory, and all energy and physical attacks had no effect on it. In the end, 2 dragons of the time and space attributes worked together to create a black hole and devour it. However, no one knew where the magic power in their bodies came from. Even after millions of years of research, no one had been able to find a clue. Fortunately, the appearance of those demonic dragons was extremely rare. In the entire history, there had only been 5 such occurrences. Who would have thought that one would appear here? The demonized giant dragon came to a place about 50 meters away from Mo Shi. It floated in the air like a ghost, observing Mo Shi. A short moment later, a rustling sound came from the center of the magical dragon. It sounded like the rustling of leaves in the wind. Russell, you are an interesting fellow. Mo Shi didn't mind. That was because he had already seen this person with the eye of the magical dragon. It was a 4th grade super-evolved dragon. The only difference between it and other dragons was that its body was illusory. An ordinary dragon would have a hard time dealing with someone like this. However, Mo Shi had no such problem. That was because he controlled time with his left hand and space with his right. Even though he had just obtained the time and space attributes not long ago, he had an advantage over this person in terms of grade. It wouldn't take much effort to deal with him. This body of yours is rather interesting. Mo Shi said with a teasing tone. The dragon laughed once again. Someone paid me to kill you. Mo Shi tried to plunder his memories, but found that he couldn't do so. Thinking about it, it should be possible to plunder only if one's body was corporeal. However, this fellow didn't even have a body, so it was impossible to plunder an illusory cloud of smoke. Let me guess, it's Shi Mingyue? Shi said slowly. The black smoke continued to let out a clatter of laughter. You really know that good-for-nothing junior brother of mine. I'm starting to like you. However, liking someone is one thing. If he pays me to kill someone, then you can't live. Of course, nothing is absolute in this world. If you are willing to pay a higher price for your life, then I can spare your life. Shi laughed when he heard this. A shrewd businessman like you is rare in this world. He took money from him, and now he wants money from me. With a brain like yours, you can do anything. The black smoke trembled, and the cloak behind it also trembled slightly. Whoosh! Most people are either scared or angry when they see me. It's the first time I've seen someone praise me. I like you more and more. In view of this, I can give you a 50% discount. If you can take out 100 million dragon coins, then I'll spare your life. Shi shrugged. Do you think I look like someone who has 100 million dragon coins? The black smoke paused and said, Haven't you earned 100 million from that nuisance cram school of yours? Shi shook his head. That's not a small goal. It's not that easy to make money. The black smoke paused for a moment and said, I can also pay in installments. Why don't you think about it? How do I pay in installments? Shi asked with a smile. Down payment of 4 million, and then give me a monthly payment. A monthly payment of 100,000. How about that? It's quite a good deal, isn't it? Shi laughed again. Forget it. I can't make 100,000 a month. And the down payment of 4 million is a bit too high. Then how much do you want? I think if you give me 4 million and give me a monthly payment of 100,000, I can consider sparing your life. Shi said jokingly. The black smoke paused for a moment and trembled a little. It was obvious that he was trembling slightly. Brat, I'm talking business with you seriously, and you dare to play with me? I shrugged again. No, I'm just talking business with you. It seems you want to die. The black shadow said and attacked Shi. Shi didn't know much about this black shadow, and he didn't know anything about magic. Of course, he wouldn't let it get close to him. At this moment, the chaotic light in his left hand lit up, and the black light in his right hand lit up. The two types of light shone brightly. Soon, the two types of energy gathered in his palms and formed a big ball. This energy ball formed by the intertwining of two types of energy formed a vortex as soon as it appeared. The center of the whirlpool seemed to have an endless suction force. Within a 20-meter radius, all the flowers, trees, and lake water were sucked in. The black shadow that was pouncing over was shocked when he saw this. How is a space-time black hole possible? How can you have time and space at the same time? No. As he screamed, he tried to flee into the distance. But the suction force of the space-time black hole was too strong. He was too fierce when he pounced, and he was only 5 meters away from Shi. So, he was sucked in almost instantly. The moment before he was sucked in, he screamed in despair, I'll give you the 4 million down payment. Don't. In the next moment, he was swallowed by the black hole. Shi retracted his hands, and the two types of energy returned to his hands from the black hole. The black hole disappeared completely. All of this took a long time to describe, but it happened in just 3 seconds. This kind of magic-possessed energy was hard to deal with. Countless colossal dragons in the 10,000 dragon starfield had died to deal with the 5 energy bodies that had been possessed by demonic powers. In the end, they barely managed to kill them. But this kind of energy had a fatal weakness. They were afraid of black holes. Space-time black holes were their natural nemesis. Even in his wildest dreams, this guy would never have thought that Shi would possess the time and space attributes. Shi was happy to have used the space-time black hole to devour him. The time and space attributes were so powerful. It was so easy to kill the energy of a 4th-grade super-evolved dragon. It seemed I had to practice the combination of time and space attributes in the future. Chapter 624. After killing the demon-possessed dragon, Shi knew that Shi Mingyue would definitely not let him go. But he didn't care at all. One had to know that with his current strength, He was basically invincible in the entire Cloud Sea Star. And at that time, Mingyue was at most a level 4 super-evolved dragon. Even if all the powerhouses under him were added up, Mo sure wouldn't even blink. Of course at that time, Mingyue might also invite other extraterrestrial helpers, but Mo sure didn't believe that he would be able to invite an ancient dragon. With Mo sure's current strength, as long as it wasn't an ancient dragon, even if he couldn't win, it would be easy for him to escape. So after killing the demon-possessed dragon, Mo sure returned to his bedroom as usual when it was close to 12 o'clock. System, sign in, he said in his mind. The system's voice quickly sounded. Sign in successful. Sign in reward. Dragon will has evolved into demonic will. Demonic will? Mo sure was a little surprised. What is this demonic will? Demonic will. A type of psychokinesis. It's just that this psychokinesis has a certain killing intent. It can be used to kill dragons, or it can also be used to arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. It can be used to kill dragons, or it can also arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. Mo sure was a little excited about this. Now, it was impossible to use dragon will to kill dragons in the 10,000 dragon star field. Because the dragons' bodies were extremely strong, dragon eyes couldn't tear their bodies apart at all. But now, this demonic will could kill dragons. Well, this was equivalent to Mo sure having a method to kill dragons invisibly. And he could also arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of others. This was very powerful. In certain situations where it was inconvenient for him to make a move, he could use demonic will to arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. Mo sure entered his Earth space. He tested the power of this demonic will. With his current demonic will, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill 3 to 5 dragons under normal circumstances. The power wasn't as strong as he had imagined. Thinking about it, it should be because the demonic will wasn't too strong yet. Once its power grew, killing 10,000 dragons with a single thought would no longer be a fantasy. However, this little bit of power was enough for now. Imagine how shocked and terrified the other giant dragons would be when they saw that he could kill a giant dragon with just a thought. However, these were only Mo sure's guesses. In fact, the power of this demonic consciousness still needed to be tested by the WYRMS. Where was he going to find a dragon to verify it? The answer was simple. He had killed 2 waves of Shi Mingyue's men, so he definitely wouldn't let him go. Sooner or later, he would come back to find him. Since that was the case, he might as well take the initiative and meet him now. Thinking of this, Mo sure moved his mind and appeared over 1,000 kilometers away. After that, he used his maximum speed to fly towards the main city of Cloud Sea Star, Cloud Sea City. Now that Mo sure had become a 6-stage super-evolved dragon, his speed was extremely fast. While flying, he tried to add a spatial skill to it. He was not flying, but flickering. You saw him appear in front of you, but in the next moment, he was already on the horizon. This kind of flickering was different from Mo sure's previous teleportation. The previous teleportation consumed a lot of energy. But now, he was using a spatial skill. This kind of spatial skill consumed very little energy. Moreover, Mo sure was not proficient in spatial skills. If he was proficient, it was possible for him to reach tens of thousands of kilometers per second. At the same time, in Cloud Sea City. At this moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, wind and rain mixed together. In Kong Hai's residence. Kong Hai was discussing the upcoming plan with a few of his strategists. He planned to kill Shi Mingyue tonight. And he knew that Shi Mingyue was not to be trifled with. Shi Mingyue was probably planning to make a move against him in the next few days. After discussing for about half an hour, they finally came up with a plan for tonight. Don't worry, Lord Kong. Tonight's plan is foolproof. As long as our plan is carried out smoothly, then Shi Mingyue will definitely die. Kong Hai nodded and said, I believe that after you kill Shi Mingyue, Cloud Sea Star will be our world. At that time, I will not treat you unfairly. The strategists cupped their fists and said, we will definitely do our best. At the same time, in Shi Mingyue's residence. Shi Mingyue was also discussing the plan with a few strategists. We have received information that Kong Hai is likely to make a move tonight. Lord Shi, then we must act as soon as possible and be one step ahead of them. As the saying goes, those who strike first gain the advantage, those who strike later suffer. Lord Shi, now is the time for lightning and thunder, the storm is fierce. It is the best time to act. Shi Mingyue shook her head slightly. The others were puzzled when they saw this. Does Lord Shi have a plan? Lord Shi, if you don't act now, it will be too late for regrets. Shi Mingyue still shook her head slightly. I am waiting for someone. Could Lord Shi be waiting for the shadow hidden under the cloak? Shi Mingyue nodded. That is my senior brother. With his strength, he can deal with a 5th grade super-evolved dragon. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the highest combat power on Cloud Sea Star. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. I understand. Lord Shi wants to wait for senior brother to return. With senior brother here, there is almost no chance of us losing. Shi Mingyue smiled and nodded. You are right. At this point, Shi Mingyue called out to the door. Men! A fully armored guard quickly came in. Lord Shi. The guard cupped his fists and greeted. Senior brother is not back yet? No. Shi Mingyue looked at the time. It was already around 12:10 at night. Senior brother should have completed the mission by now. With his personality, even if he could not make it back in time, as long as he completed the mission, he would call Shi Mingyue to ask for the remaining money. Did something go wrong? Shi Mingyue's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this. He had sent the space-time duo, thinking that it would be easy for them to capture the dragon. Unexpectedly, the space-time duo never returned. Could it be that today was also the same? How was that possible? Shi Mingyue was much stronger than the space-time duo. Let alone a 5th grade dragon, even a 6th grade super-evolved dragon would not have an easy time in front of his senior brother. That guy could not be a 7th grade super-evolved dragon. Could he? Just as he was wondering, a domineering voice came from outside the door. Shi Mingyue, come out and face your death. Even though it was a stormy night, this voice broke through the sky and the curtain of rain, echoing in the minds of everyone in the mansion. Shi Mingyue was shocked when he heard this voice. He was a scholar, and scholars were always very smart. That was why he did not go out. Instead, he went to the monitoring room. He looked at the sky through the monitoring room screen. In the rainy night, a figure was floating in the air above his mansion. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The person in the sky was dressed in black and had a cold expression. It was Instructor Mo Shi, whom he had been looking for. Chapter 625. Seeing Mo Shi appear, a trace of fear appeared in Shi Mingyue's heart. The space-time duo had failed. Her senior apprentice brother had also failed. How was this possible? As far as Shi Mingyue knew, the strongest person she had ever seen was her senior apprentice brother. An existence that could kill a grade 6 super-evolved dragon with the body of a grade 4 super-evolved dragon. However, her senior apprentice brother had not returned, and this guy had appeared in front of her. Could it be that this guy's level had surpassed that of a grade 6 super-evolved dragon? No, that was impossible. How could he be a grade 6 super-evolved dragon? Shi Mingyue shook her head in fear. She ordered all her subordinates in the mansion. Kill him. Kill him. There were some ruthless people under Shi Mingyue. Moreover, some of them did not recognize Mo Shi. Therefore, a grade 3 super-evolved dragon with a mohawk shouted, "Don't fight with me. He's mine." To be able to kill this fellow who had trespassed into the first mansion would be another meritorious service. Although Lord Shi's methods were ruthless, he had always been very generous. Killing this guy would definitely give them a lot of rewards. No one else went to fight with the mohawk, because the mohawk was a troublemaker. He was Lord Shi's favorite. Who would dare to fight with him? They could only curse in their hearts. This guy got first again. What AF * King Bootlicker. The mohawk had already condensed a pair of wings with energy and flew up. The next moment, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The entire land was illuminated as if it was daytime. Meanwhile, the body of the mohawk that had just flown up was instantly torn in half and fell from the sky. When the surrounding people saw this, they were all shocked. What was going on? They did not see the guy in the sky attack. Moreover, after the mohawk fell to the ground, his body showed no signs of healing. It was important to know that dragons had extremely strong vitality. Their self-healing abilities were also very strong. Even if their bodies were torn in half, they would be able to heal themselves at the fastest speed. However, The cells in the Mohawk's body seemed to have died long ago. What was going on? In the midst of the shock, there was a grade 3 super-evolved dragon who was not afraid of death. Like the Mohawk, he roared. How dare you trespass the mansion? I think you don't want to live anymore. Then he stomped his feet on the ground, and his body quickly soared into the air. When he was in the air, a layer of yellow energy appeared around his body. Then, the yellow energy in the sky condensed into a giant fist that was 1,000 meters long and 500 meters wide. It smashed down on Mo Sure. Even the rainwater in the sky seemed to have stopped under the impact of this earthy yellow energy fist. This was the killing move of the rank 3 Earth Dragon. However, at this moment, the Earth Attribute Dragon's body was suddenly torn into several pieces. It fell from the sky, and at the same time, the khaki-colored energy fist disappeared. The rain that seemed to have solidified in the sky began to fall again. When several pieces of the Earth Attribute Dragon's corpse fell from the sky and landed at their feet, everyone was once again shocked. This Earth Attribute Giant Dragon was best at defense, and its body was far stronger than other giant dragons, but now it was torn into several pieces in an instant. Just how much power was needed to do that? Moreover, no one saw how the guy in the sky attacked. That fellow kept flapping its blood-red wings, quietly floating in the sky, motionless. They did not see any signs of him attacking at all. However, he killed 2 rank 3 super-evolved giant dragons in an instant. What on earth was going on? Amidst the panic, someone said, "This guy is too strong. We can't deal with him alone. Everyone, let's kill him together." When he said this, the rest of the people roared one after another. They leaped into the sky. Moreover, they did not attack Mo Sure in their human forms. Instead, they transformed into their giant dragon forms. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, the giant dragon form was the strongest combat form. Therefore, when giant dragons encountered a powerful enemy, they would usually transform into their giant dragon forms. In just an instant, more than 30 giant dragons appeared. Under the curtain of rain, each of these 30 giant dragons was 10,000 meters long. There were fiery red fire elemental dragons, golden metal elemental dragons, and yellow earth elemental dragons. More than 30 giant dragons almost occupied the entire dark night sky. The sky was filled to the brim. This was definitely the most spectacular scene Mo Sure had ever seen. If the people on Earth saw this scene, they would probably be scared to death. In the secret chamber below the ground, Shi Mingyue watched this scene on the screen, and her heart began to beat rapidly. More than 30 giant dragons were basically rank 3 super-evolved giant dragons. If they still could not deal with this guy, then they would have to bring out their strongest secret weapon. This time, Mo Sure in the sky finally moved. He did not transform into his giant dragon form. He still maintained his human form. He stretched out his hands slightly. The chaotic time attribute energy appeared in his left hand, and the black space attribute energy appeared in his right hand. Time in his left hand and space in his right. The left and right combined, and time and space reversed. The next moment, these 2 attribute energies quickly rose and intertwined in front of him. Then, an energy vortex appeared. This energy vortex appeared to be the color of chaos. However, it soon turned black. The next moment, a black hole appeared in the sky. This black hole was about 100 meters in diameter. The moment the black hole appeared, a huge suction force suddenly spread out in all directions. All the rain within 100 kilometers was instantly sucked into this black hole. Crack! A bolt of lightning that spanned across half the sky appeared. However, this bolt of lightning did not have time to illuminate the entire world before it was quickly swallowed by the black hole. When all the giant dragons saw this, their expressions suddenly changed drastically. A black hole that could even swallow lightning. What kind of terrifying existence was this? In horror, these giant dragons quickly fled in all directions. However, before they could escape, their bodies involuntarily moved toward the black hole. A fire giant dragon kept flapping its wings, trying to break free from its shackles. However, its tail was quickly swallowed by the black hole, and the power generated by its flapping wings was far from being able to withstand the suction force of the black hole. It seemed that in just a few seconds, this giant dragon was swallowed by the black hole. One must know that this giant dragon's body length reached 10,000 meters, and its wingspan reached more than 8,000 meters. The diameter of the black hole was only about 100 meters. However, The black hole had no difficulty swallowing this 10,000-meter giant dragon. The rest of the giant dragons originally thought that their bodies were huge and would be stuck in the black hole, and it would be impossible to be completely swallowed. However, when they saw this scene, they suddenly panicked. Chapter 626. Seeing that Mo Shi's black hole could actually devour giant dragons, the other giant dragons' expressions changed drastically, and they hurriedly fled in all directions. However, in the blink of an eye, the suction force spread toward them. Although they were giant dragons and had power far beyond the imagination of humans, compared to the suction force of this black hole, their power was so insignificant. The earth attribute giant dragons were sucked in, the metal attribute giant dragons were sucked in, the ice attribute giant dragons were sucked in, and the wood attribute giant dragons were sucked in. In front of this black hole, no giant dragon of any attribute could escape. And not only the giant dragons in the sky, but also the giant dragons on the ground who had not yet transformed into their giant dragon forms were sucked in one after another. They hurriedly struggled to escape. However, all their movement skills, teleportation, and flickering were useless in front of this black hole. Just like in any movie, these people were sucked up high. Then they were swallowed by the black hole. Along with them, the buildings, flowers, and trees on the ground were also sucked up and swallowed. What was a black hole? It was a black hole that swallowed everything. At this time, the black hole created by Mo Shi was swallowing everything that could be seen in Shi Mingyue's residence. In the secret underground room, Shi Mingyue saw this scene and his face turned pale. Especially when he saw the 5 rockery arranged according to the 5 elements in the residence being sucked up. Under the rockery, 5 hidden pipes with a diameter of more than 10 meters were also sucked up. Shi Mingyue's eyes were filled with horror. Hey, wait. I haven't even taken out the secret weapon, and it's already been sucked into the black hole. What the hell is going on? He regretted it. He really regretted it. He regretted provoking this guy in the first place. In fact, he didn't notice Mo Shi at all at first. He heard from his subordinates that Kong Hai went to invite Mo Shi, so he followed suit and invited Mo Shi. He never thought that he would provoke a fiend like this. Kong Hai, so this is your most powerful killing move? You deliberately led me to provoke this fiend. At this time, the only thing Shi Mingyue could think of was to escape. Facing such a terrifying guy, he could only run. He hurriedly took out a cube that looked like a Rubik's Cube. However, this cube was black in color, and it even emitted a faint black glow. One had to know that there was nothing in the world that could emit black light. However, this cube was emitting a black light, which was enough to tell that it was different from the rest. That's right, this was an escape route. It was an escape space created by a giant dragon with spatial attributes. As long as he entered through this entrance, he would appear at the exit in the next moment. The exit was on another nearby planet. Therefore, as long as he activated this escape space, he could quickly leave the Cloud Sea Star. Run away from this fiend. However, when he activated the space and tried to enter it, he was shocked to find that he could not enter it no matter what he did. His face turned even paler. This is impossible. This space can't be fake. What's going on? Naturally, he did not know that Mo Shi had mastered spatial skills. As long as it was within a radius of 100 kilometers, Mo Shi had absolute control over the entire space. Even if you can teleport, some movement skills, and you have some kind of escape device. However, under the absolute control of Mo Shi's space attribute skill, there was no way for him to escape. Just as Shi Mingyue was panicking. Rumble, rumble. A series of loud noises kept coming. The loud noises seemed to be very close. It sounded like the sound of a house collapsing during an earthquake. However, when he looked up, he found that it was not the ceiling above him that was collapsing, but the ceiling that was collapsing. Hundreds of cracks appeared on the roof, so it broke into hundreds and thousands of pieces and flew into the sky. One had to know that his secret room was more than 20 meters from the surface, which meant that the 20-meter thick floor had already shattered into thousands of pieces and was sucked into the black hole. Shi Mingyue looked at all this in disbelief. He used to have the space-time duo under him, but that guy with spatial attributes did not have such terrifying strength. The strength that Mo Shi displayed made him despair. At this time, Shi Mingyue could only use his time attribute skill. The chaotic light on his body lit up. The chaotic energy spread out and quickly occupied a radius of 100 meters. He had to control time.
At least control the time within 100 meters of him, so that the collapse would slow down a little, so that the black hole would slow down.
Only then would he have time to escape.
However, just as the chaotic light on his body began to spread out, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up.
The chaotic light on Mo Shi's body shone brightly. And this chaotic light was 100 times brighter and 100 times stronger than the chaotic light on Shi Mingyue's body. Almost in an instant, it swallowed the chaotic light on Shi Mingyue's body. At this moment, Shi Mingyue's chaotic light did not have any effect at all. Moreover, his body was rapidly wrinkling and aging. Shi Mingyue knew that this was the time attribute at work. He used to play this trick often, accelerating the flow of time on someone's body, letting that person quickly age and eventually die. But now he actually saw the time on his body being accelerated rapidly, and he was aging quickly. His body was no longer full, but quickly shriveled up. More and more wrinkles appeared on his body, and soon he looked like an old man in his twilight years. How was this possible? This guy actually knew how to use time attribute skill again. Wasn't he a spatial attribute? How could he know the time attribute? Could it be that he had mastered both the time and space attributes at the same time? God, what kind of guy did he provoke? It was okay to accidentally offend a pervert. No! Shi Mingyue only had time to let out such a cry before his body quickly shriveled up like a dried corpse. His cells lost their activity, and his body lost its life. A person who played with time in the palm of his hand was finally played by time. Logically speaking, Shi Mingyue's time skill was better than Mo Shi's.
After all, he had been playing with it since he was young, and had been playing with it for tens of thousands of years.
However, he had no resistance in front of Mo Shi's time skill at all. This was all because there was a huge gap between his level and Mo Shi's. One had to know that between super-evolved dragons, the difference between each level was like heaven and earth. He was only a level 4 super-evolved dragon, while Mo Shi was level 6. No matter how good his time attribute skill was, it was as insignificant as an ant in front of Mo Shi's level suppression. Following that, the black hole continued to devour everything in the Shi family's residence. About 5 minutes later, everything in the Shi family's residence had disappeared. There was only a huge pit with a diameter of 5 kilometers left. Chapter 627. In the rainy night. A bolt of lightning instantly tore through the night sky, illuminating the entire world as if it were daytime. Mo Shi was suspended in the air just like that. He did not care that the rain was drenching him. He looked at the 5-kilometer-wide crater on the ground. Mo Shi sighed in his heart. The power of the space-time black hole was so great. Not only did it devour dragons and buildings, but it even devoured the ground. As long as it was within its suction range, it would devour everything. And this was the skill he had just obtained. If he could practice it more, how powerful would it be? Mo Shi estimated that with this skill, it would be easy for him to deal with a 9th-grade super-evolved dragon that was 2 or 3 grades higher. After becoming a super-evolved dragon, the difference between each grade was like heaven and earth. Generally speaking, being able to deal with an enemy that was 1 grade higher was already very powerful. Mo Shi could now deal with an enemy that was 2 or 3 grades higher. It was obvious how much this black hole had boosted his strength. At this moment, the system's voice rang in Mo Shi's mind. Dragon slaying points. 10501000. Level up available. Do you wish to level up now? Mo Shi was overjoyed. His dragon slaying points were finally full. Level up. Time required for this level up. 5 minutes. The system prompted again. Mo Shi took one last look at the crater below. Seeing that there was nothing left for him to stay in this apocalyptic world, his figure disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already thousands of kilometers away. No one knew that the bright moon that shook the entire Cloud Sea planet on this rainy night had already disappeared. 10 minutes later, in the lakeside villa, Mo Shi's face was filled with joy. I finally reached 7th grade. It had only been 4 months since he came to the 10,000 Dragon Star region, and he had already risen to 6th grade. For those dragons that needed hundreds, thousands, or even thousands of years to advance to 1st grade, Mo Shi's speed was no different from sitting on a rocket. He estimated that, at 7th grade, he could easily deal with a 9th grade super-evolved dragon. He might even have a chance against a 10th grade super-evolved dragon. However,
This was not enough to satisfy him.
Instead, it made him more eager to continue evolving to become an ancient dragon. In the eyes of others, a 10th grade super-evolved dragon was already 10% powerful. Ancient colossal dragons, on the other hand, rarely appeared. However, since Mo Sure wanted to stir up trouble in the 10,000 dragon star zone, an ancient dragon would be the minimum requirement.
Now that he was already a Tier 7 super-evolved colossal dragon, would the ancient colossal dragon still be far away?
While Mo Sure was getting excited at the lakeside villa, about 10 kilometers away from Shi Mingyue's mansion, a troop of about 3,000 people was passing by silently. Kacha, a bolt of lightning lit up the world as if it were daytime. Through the lightning, one could see that these people were all wearing black cloaks in the rainy night. They were like a group of ghosts. The leader of the group was a tall and sturdy man with a cold face. This person was Kong Hai. Thousands of years ago, there had been 3 great wars on Cloud Sea Planet. Another time was a war against foreign enemies. Han Kong Hai had performed exceptionally well in the past few battles. He killed so many enemies that they were terror-stricken. Thus, he built up his reputation and slowly became a loyal subordinate of the Star Lord. Now that the Star Master was dead, he had become the candidate for Planet Master. Originally, he planned to deal with Shi Mingyue in 2 or 3 days, but the weather tonight was too good, so he changed his mind at the last minute and gathered 3,000 people to kill Shi Mingyue. However, just as he and his 3,000 people were moving forward silently, a voice suddenly came from his earpiece.
Master Kong, something bad has happened.
Shi Mingyue frowned and raised her fist, indicating for everyone to stop. What's wrong? Master Kong, when we came here to investigate, we found that Shi Mingyue's mansion had disappeared. Disappeared? What did that mean? My lord, this is the Shi family's residence. It has completely disappeared, leaving only a huge pit here. When Kong Hai heard this, he was slightly stunned. What was going on? How could the Shi family mansion disappear? In his surprise, he sped up and quickly arrived above the Shi family mansion. At this time, the Shi family mansion was no longer there. In the place where the Shi family mansion used to be, there was only a huge pit with a diameter of 5 kilometers. They used all kinds of technology to investigate if the Shi family was up to something. However, after more than 10 minutes, all the technology found was that the Shi family mansion had completely disappeared. Master Kong, according to the space-time detector, we found that a black hole had appeared here. It's very likely that the Shi family mansion was swallowed by that black hole. As for the 700 people, they were probably swallowed by the black hole as well. A technician reported. Hearing this, the surrounding people felt a wave of shock in their hearts. Although the dragons had studied black holes much more than the people on Earth, it was still very difficult to create a black hole. Even if 2 dragons with time and space attributes worked together, they would need to reach 100% tacit understanding before they could create a black hole. However, in fact, it was impossible for 2 people to reach 100% tacit understanding. Even twins were impossible. Theoretically speaking, if one wanted to create a black hole, they would have to possess both the time and space attributes. However, the space attribute was already very rare, and the time attribute was even rarer. In addition, dual attribute dragons were also very rare. With all these factors combined, it was almost impossible for a dual attribute space dragon to create a black hole. Then what was going on? Amidst their astonishment, everyone began to inspect their surroundings. They didn't find any valuable clues. In the end, they could only conclude that the Shi family had provoked someone they shouldn't have. They were destroyed by that person. And currently, in the Nebula Sea Star, he couldn't think of anyone who could destroy the Shi family in such a short time. Then it should be done by an alien force. This way, it would save him a lot of trouble. Originally, with more than 3,000 of them against the Shi family, although they would definitely be able to destroy them, there would still be casualties. Now, they wouldn't have a single soldier. Shijia had been destroyed without any effort. Then, he could just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Of course, he didn't dare to make a move for the time being. What if the powerhouse who destroyed the Shi family was on the Nebula Sea Star? I destroyed the Shi family, and you became the Nebula Sea Star. No one would be happy with this. So, he waited for another half a month. In this half a month, he used his identity and status to inquire from various channels to see if there was a mysterious powerhouse that suddenly appeared. However, There was no news. It seemed that the powerhouse had already left the heart of the Nebula Sea Star. Thus, Kong Hai began to inherit the position of Nebula Sea Star. He inherited the position of Nebula Sea Star in a very special way. There were 2 chairs left behind his seat.
When his subordinates asked why he left these 2 chairs behind, he replied, "The reason why we were able to easily obtain this ruling power was all thanks to these 2 powerhouses. If they return, I am willing to hand over this ruling power to them unconditionally."
Chapter 628. In the following days, Mo Sure still went to the Cloud Sea Academy for half a day and then stayed at the lakeside villa to tutor. He seemed to be aloof from worldly affairs. At the same time, the news of Shi Mingyue's destruction had spread throughout the entire Cloud Sea planet. Many forces were very surprised by Shi Mingyue's destruction. Many people were also very surprised. They all knew that there would be a battle between Shi Mingyue and Kong Hai after the sudden death of the Star-Lord. Moreover, that battle was likely to be huge and long. Many forces were already prepared to benefit from it. Many people had also moved their stools and were ready to watch the drama unfold in the front row. However, no one expected Shi Mingyue to be destroyed without a sound. It said that someone went to the Shi family mansion to take a look. Everything in the Shi family mansion had disappeared, leaving only a 5-kilometer crater. If you want to talk about big pits, many giant dragons can create them. But you have to know that the Shi family mansion is not an ordinary force. Their mansion must have an extremely powerful defense system around it. Therefore, to be able to break through the defense system of the Shi family and destroy the entire family without a sound, the person must be very powerful. It's very likely to be a grade 7 super-evolved dragon. I think it's likely to be grade 8. Therefore, the rumors about the mysterious powerhouse became more and more exaggerated. In the end, it was said that the mysterious powerhouse was a grade 10 super-evolved dragon. At the same time, these people also had a deeper understanding of Kong Hai's force. Kong Hai actually has such a powerhouse under him. If it's really a grade 10 super-evolved dragon, why would he work for a grade 4 like Kong Hai? That's hard to say. Maybe they're just good friends. Maybe Kong Hai saved him before and he's just returning the favor. Therefore, when we meet Lord Kong Hai in the future, we'd better be respectful. He's still calling him Lord Kong. He's probably going to inherit the position of Star-Lord soon. In fact, these people were right. A month later, Kong Hai officially announced that he would inherit the position of Star-Lord. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, the position of Star-Lord was not officially appointed. It was held by the capable. The previous Star-Lord had died, and Kong Hai was the strongest among the remaining forces. Naturally, Kong Hai would be the Star-Lord. Moreover, due to his previous achievements, no one had any objections to him taking the position of Star-Lord. The entire Cloud Sea planet was talking about the strength of the Void Ocean and the strength of the hidden powerhouse. However, Kong Hai was the only one who knew that there was no hidden expert under him. Even if he ascended to the position of Star-Lord, there would always be 2 chairs behind him. If one day those 2 mysterious powerhouses appeared, he would not hesitate to hand over the position of Star-Lord to them. He had fought on the battlefield and gone through fire and water, so he valued his life more than anyone else. It wasn't that he was afraid of death, but that he cherished life. Although the position of Star-Lord was indeed very tempting, it was not worth mentioning compared to his life. At the same time, he sent people everywhere to seek talents. He had recruited a large number of talents from Cloud Sea Planet. 2 teachers of Ocean of Clouds Academy had already resigned and been recruited by Kong Hai. Of course, Kong Hai had also invited Mo Sure several times. However, Mo Sure did not agree. Right now, he only wanted to quietly increase his strength and make a fortune. As for Star-Lord, the position of ruler, and the struggle between the various factions, he did not want to get involved. On this day, Mo Sure finished teaching a few students in his class. Although it was called a class, it was actually Mo Sure telling the students stories. What kind of class could he teach? He had already taught the students everything he could. Even the second transformation of various dragons was enough for the students to learn for hundreds or even thousands of years. Therefore, every day, if Mo Sure was in a good mood, he would go to the classroom and tell the students a story or 2.
His experiences from Earth to the Flaming Origin continent and then to the Myriad Dragon Star region were far beyond the imagination of these dragons.
Just one or two things could make them sigh in amazement. If he was in a bad mood, he would not even go to school.
The dean of the academy did not dare to slight him. Moreover, the dean had personally said to him, "If you have something to do one day, you just have to let me know." This was equivalent to telling Mo Sure that if he wanted to come, he could come. If he did not want to, he just had to let me know. After all, the dean of the academy was only a rank 3 super-evolved dragon, and Mo Sure was at least rank 5 or even rank 6 in the dean's opinion. Facing such an existence, he naturally did not dare to slight him. This morning, Mo Sure finished telling the story and was about to return to his office. Suddenly he heard a few students say, "The Star-Lord is here, the Star-Lord is here, let's go take a look."
Star-Lord? Didn't the Star-Lord die suddenly?
Please, now that Lord Kong Hai has become the Star-Lord, when did your family get connected to the internet?
So it's Star-Lord Kong Hai. I admire Lord Kong Hai the most. He fought 3 internal wars and 1 external war. Every time, he killed so many enemies that they trembled in fear. He is known as the ever-victorious general.
Then what are we waiting for?
Let's go take a look. In their excitement, many students ran toward the academy's gate. Mo Sure shook his head.
What a bunch of inexperienced brats.
In fact, it wasn't just these students. Many of the academy's instructors also ran toward the gate. After all, even though they were instructors of the Cloud Sea Academy, they had never seen the Star-Lord before. Now that they had the chance to see the Star-Lord in person, they naturally would not miss it. Even the dean went out to welcome him. He might be a rank 3 super-evolved dragon, but the Star-Lord was a 4th grade. Naturally, he had to welcome him. Mo Sure was the only one in the entire academy who was still leisurely strolling along the tree-lined path, slowly walking towards his office. His only thought now was to improve his strength. As for his external living conditions, material conditions, and the like, he did not care. Thus, even if he met the Star-Lord, he did not care. What did it mean to be strong without desires? This was what it meant to be strong without desires. At the academy's gate, the instructors and students quickly lined up to welcome the arrival of Star-Lord Kong Hai. Kong Hai was a rather easygoing person. He greeted the dean, the instructors, and the students. The dean said with a smile, "Star-Lord, I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Kong Hai waved his hand. It's fine. Everyone, go do your own things. I'm here today to visit Mo Sure, Instructor Mo." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. The Star-Lord had just been appointed, and he was here to visit Instructor Mo? However, after thinking about it, they understood. Kong Hai had recently been recruiting talents from all over the place. Mo Sure was able to help a student advance to grade 1 in just 10 days. Kong Hai naturally wanted to recruit such a genius. However, Kong Hai only sent one person to invite the other talents. Now, he was here to visit Instructor Mo personally. This surprised everyone. Chapter 629. Under everyone's gaze, the new Star-Lord Kong Hai arrived in front of Mo Sure's office. Kong Hai's subordinate shouted, "Instructor Mo, the Star-Lord is here to visit. Hurry up and welcome him." To everyone around, there was nothing wrong with this shout. After all, Kong Hai was the new Star-Lord. Although Mo Sure was powerful and had some special abilities, he was still just an instructor of the academy. It was already an honor for Kong Hai to visit Mo Sure personally. Shouldn't he come out to welcome him? However, the dean had other thoughts. He knew that Mo Sure's strength had most likely reached the 5th or 6th rank Superflower Dragon. Under the premise that strength was respected in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, how could Mo Sure go out to welcome the Star-Lord? As expected, Mo Sure didn't come out. All the instructors and students around felt that Mo Sure was a bit too much. However, Kong Hai glared at his subordinate. "Who told you to talk too much?" The subordinate immediately nodded and lowered his head. "I'm sorry, Star-Lord." "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Instructor Mo." Kong Hai's voice was slightly stern. The subordinate immediately cupped his fists towards Mo Sure's office. "I'm sorry, Instructor Mo. I was too rash and offended you. Please forgive me." Then Kong Hai cupped his fists towards Mo Shi's office. Instructor Mo, I'm the new Star Lord Kong Hai. Your subordinate has offended you. It's my fault for not disciplining him properly. I apologize to you here. When everyone saw this scene, each and every one of them was extremely shocked. A Star Lord apologizing to an instructor. Was there any justice in this world? Was there any law? One had to know that on a planet, the Star Lord was the law, and the Star Lord was the law. The Star Lord's face was greater than the sky.
Although the strong were respected, generally speaking, the Star Lord was the strongest person on a planet.
Even if the Star Lord made a mistake, he wouldn't admit it. Instead, his subordinate would apologize. Now, Kong Hai was the one who made a mistake. In the end, not only did his subordinate apologize, but he also apologized.
Everyone knew that the new Star Lord was thirsty for talent, but there was no need for him to be so humble in front of Instructor Mo.
What they didn't know was that Star Lord Kong Hai actually knew something. In Kong Hai's opinion, many things in this world were connected. This was his experience after living for over 10,000 years. In the past, Instructor Mo was able to help a student break through 1 or even 2 levels in 10 days. This was already an existence that subverted everyone's knowledge. Later on, 2 mysterious experts appeared and destroyed the entire Shi Mingyue residence in a single night. There might be some kind of connection behind this. That was why Kong Hai was so polite to Mo Shi. Mo Shi's voice slowly came from inside the room. Come in. Mo Shi had already plundered Kong Hai's memories. He knew Kong Hai's true thoughts.
It had to be said that this old man who had lived for tens of thousands of years was really something.
He could even see the connection between the two. He was indeed amazing. Instructor Mo, I'll come in then. As Kong Hai spoke, he pushed open Mo Shi's door and entered his office. Behind Kong Hai, his 2 subordinates also wanted to enter, but Kong Hai stopped them with a look. The 2 subordinates immediately stopped in their tracks. They closed the door behind them. Kong Hai entered the room and once again cupped his fists to Mo Shi. Instructor Mo, I came without an appointment. If I offended you, please forgive me. Mo Shi had a good impression of Kong Hai. Although this person valued power too much, he went to the battlefield to kill enemies and made them tremble in fear. He was also courteous and thirsty for talents. These were all true.
At the same time, this person was actually able to guess that he was related to the 2 mysterious experts.
He was indeed quite capable. It was just that Kong Hai would never dream that he was the 2 mysterious experts. Mo Shi smiled faintly and said, I've already said that I like freedom and don't like restrictions. Star Lord Kong Hai, please go back. When Kong Hai heard this, he was even more certain of his guess. Most people would only call him Star Master when they saw him. Almost no one dared to call him by his name in front of him. Yet, Instructor Mo added his name in front of the Star Lord, Kong Hai.
It could be seen that either this person was extremely powerful, or the faction behind him was extremely powerful.
They were so powerful that they didn't care about his position as the Star Lord. Thinking of this, Kong Hai was secretly shocked. As expected, there was a high possibility that there was a connection between Instructor Mo and those 2 mysterious experts. Kong Hai continued, If Instructor Mo isn't willing to work under me, you can stay in the academy. You can do whatever you want. I only ask that you put your name under me. I will give you the highest honorary position. Your monthly benefits will also be far better than others. It could be said that Kong Hai's attitude was very humble. However, Mo Shi still waved his hand. He couldn't be bothered to talk to Kong Hai anymore. Instead, he directly used Dragon Sense to transmit his voice. You don't have to keep the 2 seats behind your Star Lord seat. I won't sit there. When Kong Hai heard this, he was slightly stunned. Then, his expression changed drastically. He looked at Mo Shi in disbelief. The 2 mysterious experts who destroyed the Shi family are. Mo Shi shook his head. Not 2. These words couldn't be clearer. If Kong Hai couldn't even understand the meaning of these words, then he had lived for tens of thousands of years in vain. His knees immediately went soft and he knelt in front of Mo Shi. Lord Mo, Senior Mo, I was blind. Please forgive me. He could already tell that the person in front of him was the one who destroyed the Shi family. In other words, He had both the time and space attributes. And one had to know that he could teach students of any other attribute. That meant that he had energy of any other attribute besides time and space. This was no longer something that could be described as a genius. Even a monster was far from enough. If one had to use a word to describe him, then it would be God. It was already very rare for an ordinary giant dragon to master 2 attributes. There had only been a few times in history for someone to master 3 attributes. And this instructor Mo had mastered almost all attributes. If this wasn't a god, then what was? No wonder his attitude towards him was so. No wonder he didn't care even if he met the Star-Lord.
Thinking of this, he hurriedly said, Lord Mo, Senior Mo, if you have any instructions in the future, just say the word.
I will not refuse.
By the way, if you want the position of Star-Lord, I will now announce to everyone that you are the Star-Lord of the Cloud Sea.
Mo sure couldn't help but smile and shake his head. Do you think I will be interested in a small Star-Lord of the Cloud Sea? Kong Hai thought about it and agreed. Why would a person comparable to a god care about a small Star-Lord position? Mo sure knew that this guy actually compared him to a god through the public memory. He found it a little funny. But this was also good. Many things on the Cloud Sea would be easy to do in the future. Kong Hai, I know what you are thinking. I can tell you that I am not a god, but I am definitely more terrifying than you think. Kong Hai was stunned again. Then he lowered his head even more. Sure enough, this person was comparable to a god. He even knew what he was thinking clearly. But don't expose my identity for the time being. Kong Hai hurriedly replied, I will definitely not reveal a single word to anyone. If I reveal anything, I will be at your disposal. Mo sure nodded in satisfaction and then asked, Kong Hai, are you willing to be my student? Chapter 630. Kong Hai, are you willing to be my disciple? Mo sure asked a question that Kong Hai did not expect. Kong Hai was stunned when he heard this. An instructor of an academy wanted to take him, a Star-Lord, as his disciple. If others knew about this, they would think that this instructor was too arrogant. After all, theoretically speaking, a Star-Lord was the most powerful being on a planet. Who would have the right to take a Star-Lord as their disciple? However, Kong Hai was only stunned for a moment before he asked, Instructor Mo, if I become your disciple, can I also advance by 1 grade? Of course. Mo sure nodded slightly. However, it will take at least 10 days before you can advance by 1 grade. Kong Hai was overjoyed when he heard this. He had originally thought that Instructor Mo's ability to upgrade the giant dragons was only limited to those below super-evolved giant dragons. After all, it was extremely difficult for a super-evolved dragon to advance by 1 grade. If Instructor Mo could really make him, a super-evolved dragon, advance by 1 rank, then he would be no different from a god. Then Kong Hai is willing to be Instructor Mo's disciple. As Kong Hai spoke, he bent down and bowed deeply to Mo sure. Mo sure slowly raised his hand and gestured for Kong Hai to rise. Come back in 10 days. I will help you advance by 1 grade. Kong Hai was overjoyed. It was important to note that he had been stuck as a 4th grade super-evolved dragon for thousands of years. How could he not be excited when he had the chance to break through 4th grade and reach 5th grade? There is one thing you need to pay attention to, Mo sure said. Our relationship will be kept a secret for now. Yes, Instructor Mo. Kong Hai was slightly surprised. Most people would be more than happy to have a relationship with a Star-Lord. However, Instructor Mo kept such a low profile that he did not understand. However, he did not ask too much. After all, it was their first meeting. It would not be good if he asked too much and Instructor Mo would dislike him. All right, you can go back. Mo sure said.
Kong Hai nodded. Then I will take my leave. As he spoke, he respectfully left the room. The people outside did not expect their Star-Lord to be so respectful in front of Mo sure. He did not even dare to turn around as he left. Instead, he retreated step by step. When the crowd outside saw the Star-Lord leave, they were all surprised. No matter how much the Star-Lord thirsted for talents and treated them with respect, there was no need for him to be so respectful to Teacher Mo.
But they couldn't ask too many questions.
After Kong Hai left Mo sure's room and closed the door, he turned around and said to everyone, if there's nothing else in the future, don't disturb Teacher Mo. His subordinates lowered their heads and said, Yes, master. When the instructors and students in the academy saw this, they were very surprised. Even if Teacher Mo could help people advance by one stage, there was no need to be so exaggerated. One had to know that in their hearts, Kong Hai was a war hero, an existence that could strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. No matter how powerful Mo sure was, he was only a teacher of an academy. In their hearts, Mo Shi's position was far below Kong Hai's. Now, Kong Hai was so respectful to Mo Shi, which really confused them. After Kong Hai left, Mo Shi's days became peaceful again. However, the instructors and students in the academy were much more respectful to Mo Shi than before. After all, if the Star Lord was so respectful to Teacher Mo, how could they not be respectful? The dean didn't dare to assign any work to Mo Shi. Mo Shi became even more idle. Other than telling 2 stories to his students every day, he had nothing else to do in the academy. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Star Lord Kong Hai came to the academy again. But this time, he didn't come with great fanfare. He came alone. After all, every time a student went to visit a teacher, he would attract a group of people with great fanfare. That would be too outrageous. Star Lord Kong Hai greeted the dean in advance. After the dean confirmed that Mo Shi was in the academy, Kong Hai entered the academy. Moreover, he disguised himself a little, so many students couldn't recognize him. He came to Mo Shi's office. "Teacher Mo, I'm here," Kong Hai said. "Come in." Mo Shi's voice, which seemed to always be calm and collected, came from inside. Kong Hai entered the room and took out dozens of gifts from a storage space. "Teacher Mo, these are my gifts to you." Mo Shi glanced at them. Most of these things were not of much use to him now. Kong Hai observed Mo Shi's expression. When he saw that Mo Shi didn't seem to be interested in these things, he could only make up his mind. "Teacher Mo, I also have a light-speed spaceship. I think with your status, you must travel between the stars often. This light-speed spaceship should be very suitable." Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He had seen light-speed spaceships in the information before. The maximum speed of the spaceship could reach 110 light speed. That was equivalent to more than 30,000 kilometers per second. This was much faster than Mo Shi's current teleportation speed. If he had such a spaceship, he could reach other planets in just 10 minutes or even a few minutes. Thinking of this, he nodded. "Well, this is indeed useful to me. Then I'll reluctantly accept it." Kong Hai suddenly felt a pinch in his heart. He had spent a lot of money to buy this light-speed spaceship. However, Kong Hai was not a stingy person. Moreover, his teacher could help him advance by 1 level today. Compared to the advancement, the spaceship was not worth mentioning. Kong Hai said to Mo Shi, "Teacher, my storage space is too small to fit the spaceship. So you'll have to come with me to get the spaceship later." Mo Shi nodded. "Cultivate once and let me see." Kong Hai Dongji sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Mo Shi had the Void Dragon's 9 transformations. The Void Dragon's 9 transformations was the culmination of all space attribute cultivation methods. Therefore, he could easily see through Kong Hai's problem. When you cultivate to the second cycle, use all your energy to attack the C-High acupoint instantly. Hearing this, Kong Hai muttered in his heart. In the past, his C-High acupoint had been injured. Every time he cultivated, when the energy passed through the C-High blood, he would feel a huge pain. Later, an expert gave him some pointers. He said that when the energy passed through the C-High acupoint, it would be reduced by half. As expected, every time his energy passed through the C-High acupoint, it would be reduced by half and he could cultivate normally. Why did Teacher Mo want him to use all his energy to attack the C-High acupoint now? However, since Teacher Mo had already said so, he could only do as he was told. Soon, when he cultivated to the second cycle, he used all his energy to attack the C-High acupoint. Suddenly, a piercing pain came from his heart. Beads of sweat the size of beans on his forehead instantly poured down. When he cultivated to the 15th cycle, the pain almost made him faint. Fortunately, he had experienced countless battles and suffered countless injuries. He gritted his teeth and endured it. Finally, after 5 minutes, the pain seemed to have reached its peak. Just as he could not take it anymore, boom! A wave of energy seemed to spread out from his limbs and bones.
Chapter 631. 631 The Power of a Star-Lord. Star-Lord Kong Hai followed Mo Shi's instructions and cultivated for 81 cycles. The pain in his heart started to spread throughout his body, spreading to his limbs and bones in an instant. Every pore and every cell in his body seemed to be enduring immense pain. It was as if 10,000 ants were gnawing at his flesh, as if 10,000 needles were piercing his heart. Even though Kong Hai was a Star-Lord, even though he had lived for tens of thousands of years and experienced countless pain and agony, even so, he still felt as if he was better off dead than alive under this immense pain. In truth, this pain only lasted for a mere 10 seconds. However, these 10 seconds felt like 10 years to him. One had to admit that Kong Hai was a true man of iron and blood, tempered through war and blood. Even though he was enduring such immense pain, he gritted his teeth and didn't make a single sound. His consciousness seemed to be fading away amidst this immense pain. Just as he was about to faint from the pain, boom! A loud explosion seemed to ring out from within his body. The next second, energy flowed freely through his meridians like a flood that had broken through a dam. As this energy flowed through his meridians, the pain in every pore of his body finally disappeared. Every cell in his body seemed to be breathing happily. An indescribable sense of comfort spread throughout his body. He had experienced this feeling many times before. He only felt this when he was advancing. He opened his eyes. His entire body was drenched. Even the ground beneath him was covered in a layer of water. It was enough to see how much pain he had just endured. In contrast to the immense pain he had just experienced was the immense pleasure he felt now. He had finally advanced to 5th grade super-evolved dragon. He hadn't advanced for tens of thousands of years. He had thought that he would never be able to advance even if he lived for another 10,000 years. With his talent, reaching 4th grade super-evolved dragon was the limit for him. Who would have thought that he would advance by a grade in just 5 minutes under Instructor Mo's guidance? Instructor Mo was truly a god. At the thought of this, Kong Hai hurriedly got up and knelt before Mo Shi. I'm afraid I won't be able to repay Instructor Mo's kindness in this lifetime. If Instructor Mo needs my help in the future, feel free to ask. Kong Hai will not refuse. After becoming a super-evolved giant dragon, every level up was equivalent to an extra 10,000 years of lifespan. Therefore, Mo Shi not only allowed him to advance by one level, but also allowed him to live for another 10,000 years. How could he repay such a great favor? Mo Shi smiled and shook his head. There will be a time when you can repay me. Kong Hai heard this. He nodded heavily. Teacher Mo, if there's anything I can use you for, Kong Hai will definitely not refuse. At this point, Kong Hai's loyalty to Mo Shi could be said to be 100%. After all, Kong Hai was the lord of a planet. If an interstellar war broke out, how many dragons would die under Kong Hai's command? And these dragons were all counted into Mo Shi's dragon slaying value. Just thinking about it made him King happy. If a war broke out, wouldn't he be able to evolve into a rank 10 super-evolved colossal dragon in minutes? Perhaps it would be easy for the ancient dragons as well. At the same time, Mo Shi also thought of a way to increase his strength quickly. He said to Kong Hai, if there are people in your army who want to improve their strength, tell them to come over. Just like the others before, I guarantee that each of them will be able to advance by one level within 10 days. Although Mo Shi already had many students now, these students were basically still studying in the academy. None of them could really join the army. Even the 6th grade students were still a few years away from graduation. It would take a few more years for them to quickly develop their combat strength and increase their dragon slaying value. Therefore, Mo Shi thought of the colossal dragons in the army. Although there hadn't been any major wars in the Cloud Sea Star in the past 2 years, small rebellions kept happening, and there were also dragon bandits and the like. Therefore, the army had been very busy. If those colossal dragons in the army became his disciples, then he would be able to earn dragon slaying value every day. Kong Hai nodded. Teacher Mo, I'll ask my Imperial Guards to come over tomorrow. Mo Shi shook his head. There's no need for the Imperial Guards for now. I think those soldiers who are fighting on the front lines every day need to improve their strength as soon as possible. This way, their lives will be more secure. Kong Hai thought to himself, not only does a magister have powerful strength, but he also has a compassionate heart.
No wonder he has such strength while I'm only the lord of a star.
Yes, then I'll order the soldiers on the Eastern Front to come back in batches so that you can improve your strength. Now, there are large and small battles breaking out on the Eastern Front almost every day. They need to improve their strength the most.
Emosher nodded, then slowly waved his hand.
Okay, go. On the way back, Kong Hai issued an order. Ask the soldiers on the Eastern Front to come back in batches to accept Teacher Mo's favor and improve their strength. On the Cloud Sea Star, the government wasn't the only power. In addition to the government, there were also some Hulong. These Hulong were originally the masters of the Cloud Sea Star. They were the natives of the Cloud Sea Star. Since the government sent colossal dragons to the Cloud Sea Star tens of thousands of years ago, these Hulong's status on the Cloud Sea Star was not as good as before. They were even treated as slaves. Therefore, many Hulong began to resist. Of course, their resistance was quickly suppressed by the Star Lord. After several major wars, these Hulong had suffered countless casualties. However, they didn't accept their fate. Instead, they escaped into the forest and fought guerrilla warfare with the government. Because the Cloud Sea Star was huge and the government's army was limited, it was impossible to completely destroy them. Therefore, the Star Lord ordered the colossal dragons to build a defense line in the east, south, west, and north. They were called the East, South, West, and North lines. Nowadays, the Hulong on the South, West, and North lines rarely showed up. Only the Hulong on the Eastern Front were still active and would attack the colossal dragons on the Eastern Front from time to time. At the Eastern Front, when the general guarding the Eastern Front saw the message from the Star Lord, he couldn't help but frown. The Eastern Front was so busy and they were short on manpower. Where would they find the time to send people back to improve their strength? Wasn't the so-called improvement of strength just training? They were going to kill Hulong every day. Why would they need training? This new Star Lord was King Bulsh Ting. But there was no other way. Since it was the Star Lord's order, he could only send some people back first. Therefore, he sent more than 1,000 soldiers to Cloud Sea City. The Star Lord had ordered at least 5,000 people in each batch, but he only sent 1,000. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the Star Lord. At the same time, he thought that since he was guarding the Eastern Front, no matter how dissatisfied the Star Lord was with him, the Star Lord wouldn't dare to touch him. That was why he was so brazen. About 2 days later, these soldiers arrived at Cloud Sea City. At the same time, the Star Lord Kong Hai invited Emosher over. When these soldiers saw that Kong Hai was so respectful to Emosher, they were a little surprised. Who exactly was this person? Soon, those who were well-informed found out that Emosher was just a teacher in an academy. They couldn't help but feel disdain. Since when did a teacher in an academy dare to show off in front of the Star Lord? Chapter 632. There was a huge martial arts arena in Cloud Sea City. The martial arts practice field was 10 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide. This was the official martial arts arena. Usually, when there were some major celebrations or competitions between dragons, it would be held in this arena. Now, the 1,000 soldiers were lined up neatly on the arena. Of course, since they were not in their dragon forms, the 1,000 of them looked very small when standing on this huge arena. Star Lord Kong Hai lectured these 1,000 people. Do you want to improve your strength? Do you want to become stronger in 10 days? Now is your chance. You must seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The soldiers below were all silent. Kong Hai was slightly displeased. Although Kong Hai was once called the god of war and a hero by them, a series of policies implemented by Kong Hai since he became the Star Lord were disadvantageous to the army. Therefore, they were a little disgusted. In fact, Kong Hai had been in the army for thousands of years and knew that the dragon army had many bad habits. These policies he implemented were just to make the army change these bad habits and win the hearts of the people. However, this made the veterans who had been in the army for thousands or even tens of thousands of years very uncomfortable. Therefore, they were naturally dissatisfied with Kong Hai. Kong Hai was already well aware of this, but he did not care. He still had to reform what was needed. At this moment, a figure quickly flew over from the distant horizon. When he arrived in front of Kong Hai, He slowly landed.
Kong Hai cupped his fists to the person and said, "Mentor Mo, you're here."
Mo Shi's subordinates were surprised to see their Star Lord being so respectful to a mentor of an academy. At the same time, they were also disdainful. Their disdain was not only for Kong Hai, but also for Mo Shi. What ability did this little mentor have to make Kong Hai so respectful? Kong Hai was too arrogant. He was actually so respectful to a mentor of the academy.
Kong Hai stretched out his hand to the soldiers and said to Mo Shi, "Mentor Mo, you may begin."
Mo Shi nodded.
Then he said to the 1,000 soldiers, "I know what you're thinking.
A mere mentor of the academy is being so respectful to the Star Lord. What a scandal.
You're very disdainful of me and the Star Lord." As soon as he said that, the soldiers below looked at each other.
Could this guy read minds? At the same time, they were secretly shocked. If they had such disdain for the Star Lord, how would the Star Lord deal with them? As expected, Star Lord Kong Hai's face darkened. "I can understand your disdain for me, but you must respect Mentor Mo 100%. If I find out who disrespects Mentor Mo, you know what will happen to you." Hearing this, the soldiers became even more curious. What was Teacher Mo's identity? The Master of Stars would rather be looked down upon than be looked down upon by others. Mo Shi glanced at the 1,000+ people. "Now, I'll teach you a spell. It's very simple. Follow me and learn for 10 days. After 10 days, I guarantee that you will break through to the First Order." Hearing Mo Shi's words, none of the soldiers believed him. They had been on the battlefield for many years. They only believed in life and death, and did not believe in anything else. They had been cultivating for so many years without being able to level up. Now, this guy was actually boasting that he could help all of them level up in 10 days. If this wasn't bragging, then what was? Mo Shi continued, "What I want to teach you is very simple." As he spoke, he took out 1,000 cards that he had asked his students to make. The cards were none other than the multiplication table. There was no multiplication table in the 10,000 Dragons Star Zone. Mo Shi demonstrated and recited it. 1 equals 1, 1 2 equals 2, 1 3 equals 3, 1 4 equals 4, 9 81. The dragons were dumbfounded by this scene. Dragons had a long lifespan, and their memories were not bad. It was not difficult for them to memorize so many multiplication tables. What surprised them was, what was this so-called mentor doing? "You said you wanted to help us improve our strength, but in the end, you had to memorize this damn thing." Even Star Lord Kong Hai was dumbfounded. What was the mentor doing? "He didn't teach me like this when he taught me before." However, Kong Hai quickly calmed himself down. Instructor Mo was a senior expert. His thoughts were not something that Kong Hai could fathom. Actually, Mo Shi's thoughts were very simple. If he taught all these dragons the 9 dragon transformations one by one, it would be a waste of time. He might as well teach them the multiplication table. It would save time and effort. Anyway, the system did not teach the dragons anything. As long as he taught them a random skill for 10 days, they would be recognized by the system as his disciple. Then, Mo Shi placed the 1,000 multiplication tables on the stone platform in front of them and asked the dragons to come and take them. Although the dragon warriors were unwilling, they still came forward to take them. After all, the Star Lord was standing there. Although they were dissatisfied, they did not dare to disobey. After all the dragons had taken the multiplication tables, Kong Hai said, "Start reading now." The giant dragons looked at each other. Although they felt embarrassed, they still began to read it one after another. Thus, a scene like this appeared in the square. 1,000 dragon warriors stood in a square formation and chanted the multiplication formula in unison. 1 equals 1, 1 2 equals 2, 1 3 equals 3, 9 81. After all the dragons finished reading, Mo Shi nodded. "Very good. Now, you can go back and recite the multiplication table by yourselves. I'll give you 10 days. After 10 days, those who have recited it can come here to find me. I'll help each of you improve by 1 level. Of course, this is voluntary. If you don't want to recite it or improve your strength, you don't have to come. But I have to remind you that you only have 1 chance. If you miss this chance, I won't help any of you improve your strength." The dragons scratched their heads in confusion.
Seeing that they were still not dispersing, Kong Hai shouted, "Disperse!"
After all, he was once a soldier. Ordinary people could not understand his aura. The soldiers dispersed and left one after another under his roar. Kong Hai waited for those baffled soldiers to leave before he turned to Mo Shi and asked expectantly, "Instructor Mo, what did you ask them to recite just now? Can you teach me?" He looked as eager as Sun Wukong in the cave of the slanting moon and 3 stars, asking Patriarch Subhoodie for the method of immortality. Mo Shi smiled faintly and shook his head. Everyone has their own cultivation method. You can't learn theirs. Kong Hai was a little anxious. No, instructor. There are so many of them. If they can learn mine, why can't they? Mo Shi smiled but did not answer. He left. Kong Hai was left standing there in a daze.
He looked in the direction where the soldiers had dispersed, and his heart was filled with envy for those soldiers.
That multiplication table must be a very powerful cultivation method or skill. Why can't Instructor Mo teach me? Chapter 633. That night, after the soldiers returned home, some went to the restaurant to drink, some went to visit relatives and friends they had not seen in a long time. Some went to the brothels to admire the flowers. They had been on the Eastern Front for so long, fighting to the death every day, and rarely had time to enjoy themselves. This time, they had finally arrived at Cloud Sea City, so they had to have fun. Obviously, most of the soldiers did not take Mo Shi's words seriously. Only a very small number of soldiers really memorized the multiplication formula. In a military tent, a soldier with a dull face was reciting the multiplication formula. 4728, 5735, 6767, 40. A soldier outside who had just returned from the brothels could not help but laugh when he saw this. Xiaofan, it's fine that you're usually so dumb, but today, you're actually memorizing this troublesome multiplication formula. I really don't know how someone as dull as you survived on the Eastern Front until now. I, Li Aoshan, really admire you. Xiaofan smiled bitterly and said, I'm usually not good at anything, and I'm always looked down on. This time, I finally have a chance to improve my strength, so of course I have to seize it. Ha ha ha, you really believe in dullards. Li Aoshan laughed as he shook his head and went to sleep in his tent. Xiaofan watched Li Aoshan enter the tent and stared at him for a moment. Then, he lowered his head, opened the multiplication formula table, and continued to recite. 4728, 5735, 6767, 40. There were less than 50 people who really memorized the multiplication formula like Xiaofan. 10 days was not a long time, but it was not short either. In these 10 days, Xiaofan and the other 40 people had already memorized the multiplication formula. They could even recite it backwards. They were all giant dragons who were usually weak in the army and were not valued. The other dragons did not take the multiplication formula seriously at all. They just ate, drank and played every day. When Kong Hai saw this, he cursed in his heart. The multiplication formula was such a profound technique, and the teacher could teach it to these guys, but they did not cherish it. He wanted to force these soldiers to learn it, but since the teacher said that it was up to them whether they learned it or not, he could not go against the teacher's wishes. At noon on the 10th day, on the huge training field, the more than 40 soldiers who had memorized the multiplication formula couldn't wait any longer. They lined up neatly and waited for Teacher Mo. As for the other warriors, they were still indulging in debauchery. Anyway, that Teacher Mo had said that it was up to them whether they wanted to learn or not. It didn't matter if they didn't want to learn. At noon, Mo Shi finally appeared. Kong Hai followed closely behind Mo Shi. When Kong Hai saw that there were less than 50 people, he was instantly enraged. These little bastards are really rebelling against them. I'll go and get them all. After all, Kong Hai had been in the army for thousands of years. In his anger, all the vulgar words came out. Mo Shi waved his hand and said faintly, There's no need for that. This matter was originally voluntary. They were not forced to do it. Kong Hai could only nod. Yes, Instructor Mo. All the soldiers were looking at Mo Shi on the stage expectantly. Mo Shi jumped off the stage and came in front of one of the soldiers. What's your name? Xiaofan. Li Xiaofan.
The soldier was so nervous that he stuttered a little.
Mo Shi said with an amiable smile, "Shuangfeng, let me see how you do it." Shuangfeng immediately sat down cross-legged and began to circulate the energy in his body. A moment later, he completed 81 circulations. Mo Shi nodded. "Overall, it's not bad. However, when the energy passes through the Tian waypoint, you must rush through it slowly. Otherwise, the impact of the energy on the Tian waypoint will be too great. The effect of the cultivation will be greatly reduced. Try to cultivate again. Remember, you must slow down when you pass through the Tian waypoint."
The soldier was very confused. In the past, when his father taught him how to cultivate, he said that when passing through the Tian waypoint, he must rush through it quickly to stimulate the cells and meridians in his body.
Why was this teacher completely different from what his father said?
However, when he saw how respectful the Star Master was to this teacher, he didn't dare to have any more doubts.
In any case, he didn't get much out of his normal cultivation. He was only a rank 2 evolved dragon. Moreover, it seemed that he had no hope of breaking through to rank 2 in this lifetime. He might as well try this method. Thinking of this, he began to cultivate according to Mo Shi's instructions. When the energy passed through the Tian waypoint, he didn't rush through it violently like before. Instead, he slowed it down. Just this time, he suddenly felt a sense of comfort in his limbs and bones that he hadn't felt before. After 2 circulations, he had an answer to his doubts. Sure enough, this teacher was right. After 81 circulations, he suddenly felt a surge of energy rushing through his body.
All the meridians in his body had an indescribable sense of comfort.
It was also at this time that the energy in his body suddenly spread in all directions. Fortunately, after thousands of years of cultivation, he was very experienced in controlling energy. He didn't let the energy spread out of his body. Then a second time, a third time. The energy spread out 3 times in a row. Even the surrounding soldiers widened their eyes in shock. Although Shuangfeng's energy didn't spread out of his body, they could feel the impact of the energy. In the past, this kind of energy impact would only happen when breaking through. Shuangfeng had broken through, and he had broken through 3 ranks in a row. Sure enough, Shuangfeng opened his eyes, and his eyes shone brightly. He looked at himself in disbelief, from his feet to his hands, and then from his hands to his feet. His tone was extremely excited. "Teacher Mo, I broke through 3 ranks in a row." Hiss! 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 The sound of the soldiers drawing in a breath of cold air could be heard one after another. Shuangfeng hadn't been able to advance a single grade in the past 1,000 years. Now, he had advanced 3 grades in just a short 5 minutes of cultivation. This was too exaggerated. Amidst the shock, these soldiers were filled with anticipation. Fortunately, they didn't indulge in debauchery like the other soldiers. Fortunately, they seized this opportunity.
Mo Shi nodded at Shuangfeng, then looked at another soldier. Next.
Soon. A few hours later.
All of the 40-odd warriors had leveled up.
The least advanced by 2 grades, and the most advanced by 4 grades. Kong Hai, who was watching from the side, was dumbfounded. Advancing to 4th grade in a single cultivation session. This was even more terrifying than the students of the academy.
However, after some thought, he understood the reason behind this. These soldiers had been cultivating for a much longer time than the students of the academy. Most of them had been cultivating for at least 1,000 years. The energy accumulated in their bodies, as well as the tempering of their cells and meridians, was naturally not something that the students could compare to. With Teacher Mo's guidance, their breakthroughs had come naturally. Advancing to 4th grade was unexpected, but it was also within reason. Chapter 634. Under Mo Shi's guidance, the 40-plus dragon warriors quickly broke through. Moreover, Mo Shi's guidance this time used the time skill. Apart from the first double Feng, the rest of the dragon warriors basically compressed their time. What was supposed to be 5 minutes was actually just a few seconds. After breaking through, the dragon warriors cupped their fists towards Mo Shi and knelt on one knee. "We will never forget Teacher Mo's great kindness. We will never forget Teacher Mo's great kindness," the dragon warriors said gratefully. Some of them had broken through 2 ranks, while others had broken through 4 ranks. If not for Mo Shi, they probably wouldn't even be able to break through 1 rank. In this lifetime,
he would die at his current level. Moreover, the significance of Mo Shi helping them break through was not only an increase in their strength, but also an extension of their lifespan. They were all evolved dragons. Every time they advanced a rank, their lifespan would be extended by 1,000 years. In other words, Mo Shi only used a few seconds to extend each of their lifespan by at least 2,000 years. Such a great kindness naturally made them excited and moved. One of the evolved dragons said, "Teacher Mo, if you have any use for us in the future, please don't hesitate to ask." The rest of the dragons nodded. Mo Shi waved his hand and said, "Brothers, you have been fighting day and night on the Eastern Front, using your lives to protect our safety. It's my honor to be able to do something for you. How could I dare to ask for anything in return?" This made the dragon warriors have a deeper understanding of Mo Shi. At the same time, they admired Mo Shi even more in their hearts. They originally thought that this teacher who could help them break through 2 ranks in a short time was a senior expert who would be high and mighty. They didn't expect this senior expert to treat them like this. It must be known that in today's society, although they were fighting on the front lines every day, not many dragons respected them. Because with the development of society, the dragons had become more materialistic and more materialistic. The dragons no longer worshipped heroes, but those rich bosses. And now, this archmage was treating them with such respect. How could they not be moved? Mo Shi waved his hand and said, "It's already late. It's getting late. Everyone, go back and rest. If you want, you can stay here for another 3 to 5 days before returning to the Eastern Front." The soldiers cupped their fists towards Mo Shi. "Thank you, Teacher Mo." That night, Xiaofan was cultivating in his tent. Li Aoshan returned from outside. He opened Xiaofang's tent and glanced inside. Seeing that Xiaofan was still cultivating, he couldn't help but shake his head. "I say, Xiaofang, don't you find it boring? Look at this colorful world, it's so much better than our boring Eastern Front. It's not easy to come here, don't you know how to go out and have some fun?" However, just as he said this, he suddenly froze. This was because he could sense from Xiaofang's cultivation that there was something wrong with Xiaofang's aura. It seemed to be many times stronger than before. He carefully sensed it again and asked in surprise, "Xiaofang, you've broken through?" After both of them had completed 81 cycles of cultivation, they slowly opened their eyes. I've broken through." Li Aoshan was stunned again. "But that's not right. You were only a rank 2 super evolved dragon before. Even if you broke through, you'd only be rank 3. I'm rank 4. Why does your aura seem to be stronger than mine now?" Xiaofang shook his head and replied in embarrassment, "No, I'm rank 5 now." "What?" Li Aoshan shook his head repeatedly. He couldn't believe it, or rather, he didn't want to believe it. When he went out this morning, this guy was only a rank 2 super evolved dragon. When he came back at night, he was rank 5. In less than 12 hours, he broke through to rank 3? However, judging from Xiaofang's aura, he was indeed more than 10 times stronger than himself, a rank 4. Thinking about how this idiot Xiaofan usually didn't know how to deceive people, he must be telling the truth. However, this guy broke through 3 levels consecutively. What's there to be ashamed of? This made Li Aoshan even more shocked. F*CK, Xiaofan, even a blockhead like you can be enlightened one day. Tell me, how did you break through? Xiaofan smiled and shook his head. If I were to cultivate by myself, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to break through even if I died. It was Teacher Mo who helped me. Magus? Which Magus? Li Aoshan was a little confused. Previously, he didn't pay much attention to Mo Shi. He had only met him once 10 days ago. At that time, he only knew that he was a teacher and didn't pay attention to his surname. In the past 10 days, he had been indulging in wine and women. He had long forgotten about this so-called teacher. It's the teacher Mo who taught us the multiplication table. Xiaofan, are you sure you're not joking? Li Aoshan still felt that Xiaofan was joking. That bastard teacher? Xiaofan, you're playing with me. Li Aoshan knew that Xiaofan never lied. However, he couldn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. What he didn't want to believe wasn't that Xiaofan had broken through 3 levels under that teacher's guidance. It was that he didn't want to believe that he had missed a great opportunity. Xiaofan naturally didn't know what he was thinking. Instead, he said seriously, "No, it was Instructor Mo who guided me. He first let me practice it once, then guided me to practice it once. Then I broke through. Moreover, I only broke through 3 ranks." At this point, Xiaofan lowered his head in shame. Brother Jean broke through to the 4th level. Xiaofan felt a little dizzy when he heard this. He kept shaking his head. "No, I don't believe it. How can someone break through to the 4th level consecutively? This is definitely fake. That teacher is just playing a trick on you." At this moment, another warrior walked in. "Xiaofan, has your cultivation stabilized? I broke through to the 3rd level and just stabilized my cultivation. Speaking of which, that Brother Jean is really a ruthless person. He broke through to the 4th level consecutively and stabilized his cultivation long ago. It seems that our talent is still lacking compared to his." When Li Aoshan heard this, he felt his vision go dark. At the same time, there were nearly 1,000 other people who felt the same way. The entire camp was practically boiling. After hearing about the experiences of these 40 warriors, they were all filled with regret. Teacher Mo is a truly capable dragon. We were simply too stupid. We missed a great opportunity. Fortunately, we are still in Cloud Sea City. Early tomorrow morning, we will go beg Teacher Mo and apologize to him. These dragons naively thought that Mo sure would give them a chance. This was because they heard from the 40 warriors that Teacher Mo was a very nice person. Not only did he help them break through, but he also didn't take a single cent. In particular, he was very respectful to the dragon warriors.
Therefore, at 6 o'clock the next morning, these 1,000 people had already gathered together and headed to Mo Shi's residence.
Lakeside Villa. Chapter 635. The next day was a Sunday. Early in the morning, Mo Shi had yet to wake up. The 1,000 dragon warriors had already gathered at the plaza outside Mo Shi's lakeside villa. However, in order not to offend Mo Shi, they did not approach Mo Shi's villa. Instead, they sent a clever dragon warrior to ask around in front of Mo Shi's villa. The dragon warrior was called Shui Wugen. When he arrived at the villa's entrance, he saw a young man practicing his skills by the lakeside. He could not help but feel happy as he approached the young man. "May I ask if you know Teacher Mo?" The young man was naturally Lei Ren. He sized the guy up and down. He did not look like a student who was here to learn. He asked with some doubt, "Why are you looking for Teacher Mo?" Shui Wugen was also a smart person. He could tell at a glance that Lei Ren and Teacher Mo's relationship was not shallow. Thus, he greeted him with a warm smile. "Hello, we are dragon warriors from the Eastern Front. We are here to cultivate under Teacher Mo's orders." Lei Ren had heard a little about them. His face immediately turned cold and he shook his head. "What do you take Teacher Mo for? Do you know how many people on Cloud Sea Planet are begging Teacher Mo to take them as his disciples? How many people have brought gifts to ask Teacher Mo to be their master? Now, Teacher Mo is kind enough to teach you for free without taking a single cent. In the end, you don't even appreciate it. Don't worry, Teacher Mo will not give you a second chance." When Shui Wugen heard this, his heart sank. However, he did not give up. That was a chance to advance to rank 2 or even rank 4. He could live for 2,000 or even 4,000 years. How could he give up just like that? He still greeted Lei Ren with a smile. "Previously we were blind. We are not good people. Now we know we were wrong." Lei Ren sneered. "Some mistakes can only be made once in a lifetime. There is no second chance." Shui Wugen still had a humble smile on his face. "Brother, please make an exception and inform Teacher Mo. Even if he refuses, we want to hear it from Teacher Mo himself." Lei Ren snorted. "Teacher Mo is busy every day. He works until midnight. He still hasn't woken up." In truth, Mo Shi had indeed only gone to bed in the middle of the night, but he had been busy with Happy for half the night. Of course, with his current strength, even if he was tossed and turned in the middle of the night, he would still be energetic if he wanted to wake up early. However, what was the point of waking up early? He could not think of a reason to wake up early. Shui Wugen cupped his fists towards Lei Ren. "Many thanks, brother. In that case, we will wait for Teacher Mo to wake up." Therefore, Shui Wugan retreated and returned to the plaza. The soldiers in the square couldn't wait any longer. How is it? Have you seen Mentor Mo? Did Instructor Mo agree? I heard that this Teacher Mo is a very good person. He won't disagree, right? Shui Wugan frowned and shook his head slightly. Teacher Mo hasn't woken up yet. However, that person should be his disciple. From his attitude, it seems that Teacher Mo isn't too happy. The other giant dragons looked at each other, and one of them said in relief, as the saying goes, it's easy to get rid of the king of hell, but it's hard to deal with the little demons. Some fellows just rely on their master's power to show off. Let's see Mentor Mo first. Then we'll wait here for Teacher Mo to wake up. If the soldiers at the front line saw the current performance of these people, they would be shocked. One must know that many of these soldiers had very fiery tempers. They would often attack at the slightest disagreement. Now that they had suffered such humiliation in front of Teacher Mo, not only did they not have the slightest intention of retaliating, they even looked very humble. When it was around noon, Mo Shi finally woke up. After eating the breakfast that Lei Ren sent over, Mo Shi poured himself a cup of tea and went to the lakeside. He enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the lakeside while drinking his tea. Brother Mo, have you seen those giant dragon warriors? They came early in the morning, intending to apologize to you. Although Lei Ren didn't like the attitude of these giant dragon warriors towards Mo Shi, whether or not to teach them still depended on Mo Shi's opinion. He couldn't make the decision for Mo Shi. Mo Shi didn't even look at those giant dragon warriors. He drank a mouthful of tea and said, "Today's tea is not bad." His meaning was very clear. There was no need to bother about them. Lei Ren immediately nodded. Brother Mo, do you have any plans for today? Mo Shi laughed. Even if there is, it is my plan. As for you, you should cultivate well, young man. Although Lei Ren couldn't go with Mo Shi, he still nodded. Big brother Mo, I'll listen to you. Then, he entered the courtyard and returned to his room to cultivate. This was completely different from his previous image as a hedonistic son. In the past, Lei Ren couldn't sit still after cultivating for 3 to 5 minutes. But ever since he met Mo Shi, he would cultivate for at least 5 hours a day. He would even cultivate for 2 to 3 days at a time. From afar, Shui Wugan saw Mo Shi come out. At the same time, he saw the person talking to Mo Shi. He knew that Lei Ren had already told Mo Shi about their situation. And Mo Shi didn't even glance in their direction. This was enough to show Mo Shi's attitude. Thinking of this, Shui Wugan's heart sank. But even so, he couldn't give up. He still called over 10 smarter warriors to come to the lakeside villa with him. They came to Mo Shi and knelt down on one knee in front of Mo Shi. Mentor Mo, we were blind. Please forgive us. Mentor Mo, we offended you previously. If you want to punish us, we will accept it. Mentor Mo, we were wrong. We were so wrong. Now we know that we were wrong. Mentor Mo, I memorized the multiplication table last night. Please enlighten me. However, Mo Shi didn't pay any attention to them from beginning to end. What a joke. A few days ago, I took the initiative to teach you, but you treated my things like dog shit. Now, seeing that the 40+ giant dragons had improved, they pounced on me again. Mo Shi hated such snobbish people the most. No matter what they said at the side, Mo Shi paid no attention to them. After he finished tasting the tea, he directly soared into the sky and flew towards the distance, quickly disappearing into the horizon. The dragon warriors looked at each other when they saw this. However, they didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. After all, they were in the wrong first. Moreover, Mentor Mo could really help a giant dragon advance to 4th grade in just a few minutes. This was enough to show Mentor Mo's strength. Moreover, even the Star Lord respected Mentor Mo. It was obvious how powerful and influential Mentor Mo was. That was why they didn't dare to complain in front of Mo Shi. What do we do now? One of the dragon warriors asked. Wait. We wait until we die. Yes, we won't leave until Mentor Mo agrees. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.